It is 7 p.m. Have you thanked your local first responder yet? I don't know if you can hear in the distance. Got people banging their ragu pans in the sky. Got some foghorns blowing. It's a nice way to let people know they're doing a good thing out there. It also still kind of sounds like Sesame Street if they got like a band together. Like those would be the primary instruments. So they're doing some pretty good band practice right now. You can hear that. This is broadcast from Somerville. I don't know if these sounds happen in your neighborhood. But I guess the idea is if it's loud enough, maybe you can hear it from space. You can definitely hear my dog whining from space. You hear that little... That's that sound of, who are you paying attention to? That ain't me. That's my dog. Well, it is 7 o'clock on a Friday. And I am hoping everybody's doing okay at this end of the week, end of the hour. This is a broadcast on a Friday. Are you guys ready to have some weekend fun? Well, I hope so. You know, this, that's pretty righteous. It's a pretty righteous thing to do. To just be in celebration of the people who are going to work and are not being cowards about it, not taking the day, not taking a personal sick day on a day where lives need to be saved. That is a daily circumstance that people need to be assisted and cared for. And it's kind of wild because stuff doesn't stop happening just because there's a quarantine. I just heard that quarantine may be going on. Well, we already kind of had a hankering that it's going to be going on for the better part of a year, but I'm hearing word that we definitely got a good 3 months happening of this indoor shit. And if you hear that soundtrack of enthusiasm, you can get a sense of how people are finding community in all of this. I don't know if is there a certified turn-off o'clock situation between the hour of 7 p.m. and 7:05 p.m. Still got the banging happen here. My dog is participating. She is saying thank you from the highest register of her octaves. It is the least she can do as a dog to thank the first responders. Here's something I'm seeing. You watch TV and you have TV commercials and, you know, they're kind of patting people on the back for staying home and watching TV. I don't know if that's the first person to thank. You know, you have all these car insurance commercials and all these wash your hand type commercials, and they're like, you're really the heroes out there, sitting down and just hanging out. All right, that is a whine that needs to be reckoned with. So, on that note, we're going to take a quick commercial break while I attend to a dog matter.
We'll return after these messages.
Mrs. Reed, aren't you taking a risk using that AIM instead of...
AIM tastes good.
I know kids like AIM, and AIM's got fluoride, but I want a toothpaste with proof it works.
Look, AIM is clinically proven to reduce cavities. But there's our best proof. They like the taste so much, we think they may be brushing longer. We know they're getting great checkups.
Great checkups?
No toothpaste fights cavities better than AIM.
There's going to be a switch at our house to AIM.
Take AIM against cavities.
It's crisp. It's hot.
It's juicy.
It's the Burger King chicken sandwich. White meat chicken. It's specialty sandwich size, not hamburger size. It's the #1 chicken sandwich in America.
Filet of white meat chicken, cooked up crisp and light. Tasty herbs and spices make this chicken right.
It's crisp. It's hot.
It's juicy.
It's the #1 chicken sandwich in America.
Make it special. Chicken is Burger King.
We are back from taking care of the dog. Hope you guys got some good information about Burger King. Times are tough. Get yourself a Whopper, or a Whopper Jr., or a Whopper Senior, or the grandfather of the Whopper clan. I assume there's a gentleman named Chris Whopper, who that burger was named after. A real life, basically a folk hero. He was the first one to discover the Whopper on the Oregon Trail. He was sifting through some soil, trying to find some gold. He was a panhandler basically, and while he was sifting with a sifter through the rivers of California, he found a Whopper in his pan with the sesame seed, pickle, onion, all that stuff. It's a naturally occurring sediment. So that's neat. That's something to not take for granted. The fact that we have Whoppers on Earth. I don't want to waste too much time because we have a buoyant, an exuberant amount of guests today. We have two. We have a comedian by the name of Cathy Coleman. She's a delight. She has appeared, and she appears, pre-pandemic, was a regular on the Boston Comedy Chicks series, performing all over Boston. She is, I could read her bio to you. There's actually some good punchlines in that little biography here that I got sent here. I could punch it up with a laugh track or two. So, Cathy Coleman, who is standing by very patiently as we were kind of revving up and handling dogs and all sorts of things that a household requires. So for that, I am grateful for the patience that is being afforded. Cathy Coleman is a young, cool hipster from Cambridge. No, she's not. She's actually a middle-aged lesbian comic/teacher from Worcester, MA. Cool, but not so much a hipster. She shares her wisdom today on topics ranging from fleece and dating to how to be a badass. She can be seen regularly on the Boston Comedy Chicks, and Improv Boston has opened for headliners like Julie Goldman and Kristen Becker. Has performed all over New England in bars, theaters, and once in a library. And the famous Brainwash Laundromat / Cafe / Comedy Club in San Francisco. They're doing a lot of things at the same time over there, repurposing venues. I've seen that here. You have some open mics here that happen in a falafel thing. So that's, that's where art happens, in small spaces. That's me editorializing right there. Cathy's students say she is a cross between Paula Poundstone and Ellen DeGeneres. Her mother says she is a cross between challenging and difficult. And she says she is a cross between witty and worrisome. And I wonder if that's just because they start with the letter W, or if she's just being real with herself. I don't know much about the worrisome part. That's the kind of stuff that we toil with in our own lives at home, late at night, in our own minds, but I can confirm the witty. That is the outward thing that I can observe, which is, that's life. We present a thing and we feel a thing, and sometimes we hold back the stuff that don't feel too good because we don't want to blast other people in the ass with our neuroses and our anxieties and all sorts of stuff like that. But so we're here on the show. We also have a musical guest, musician by the name of Ben Mueller. He is the songwriter and he's the chief spokesperson and the councilman of a Connecticut-based indie folk project called Low Ceilings. And they just dropped an album earlier this year called Learn to Sew. You can find that on Spotify and all those other places that they distribute music on. And I'm sure he's making a good 0.6 cents on the dollar for every time you listen to one of those songs. So get to listening. Play one of those songs 1,000 times. And then by the end of the week, maybe he'll have $10. Then he can go buy himself a very nice sandwich if there are sandwiches anymore. If they make sandwiches in this day and age. So there's that. So he's going to be coming up later. He's got some songs to play for everybody. But I'm glad you are here in my kitchen, where you can hear pots and pans and dogs and unruly, restless neighbors and howling hounds and just the reality of where we are now in the present, where we are all trapped. We are trapped in the present tense. You know, they could make a Terminator movie now, and it would be this thing where Arnold Schwarzenegger would try to travel into the future, but he wouldn't be able to because we have no sense of it. So there'd be this whole thing where he's like, no, I have to go assassinate John Connor. Well, it's like, hey man, well, right now we're trying to stay pretty mindful, so I don't know about any of that stuff, but you know, maybe in 6 months, when we get some better information, we'll see about whether it's safe or not to time travel. I don't think the time traveling facilities are well staffed enough to actually serve yourself. Your time traveling needs are, I guess, a little bit also under lockdown. So you're gonna have to stay put. Sorry for all the time travelers who are so inconvenienced by a national health concern, but all the time traveling facilities are currently only working with pre-existing patients. They're not serving any new clients who need to time travel. So stay put and watch something on Hulu. Watch one of these documentaries that's made by the same organization that they're attempting to slam. It's kind of a weird thing when you have a Fire Festival documentary that's basically saying, hey, they made a shit festival. They didn't put any prior planning into it. And then that same entity is the one who like funded and financed and created the documentary. It's like, oh, this is just kind of a backdoor deal to get yourself into the documentary business. So I see how you work. You're working the angles. So if you fail to commit one crime, just know there's a backup option if you want to document that experience. So there's that. That's just thoughts on my brain. Let's see. I don't know if anybody has been reading lately. Has anybody been actually trying to like heal their brain? Is anybody staying functional? I think that's something where you can get lost in the kind of malaise of it all. Like it's very easy to be lazy and hopeless and just given into the lowest impulses, as opposed to staying productive or creative or choosing something that still has meaning. And I think the issue is, there's a lack of feedback. So it's like you create stuff in a vacuum and you feel like, well, if people aren't looking at it, what's the point of making it? And I think there has to be some kind of a deeper realization about that there's many ways to find a joy in the same thing, So if you're a performer and you need an audience to create the joy, you could shift your focus into the creative aspect of what it means to be a performer and take this time to really just hone into that side of it, work the muscles that are being neglected. So, while we're kind of on a permanent leg day rest situation, we can't get on a stage, focus in on your mind's eye, sharpen that shit up, meditate, read content, like just read things that'll put your brain into places you never thought about before. Just do all sorts of crazy shit. Just put your TV guide on a Russian roulette kind of thing, and just play whatever pops up. And if it's something you're like, I don't feel the mood for that, sit through it for like 10 minutes, and then see if you don't gain something. Maybe there's something to be gained in the things you neglected for so long. Something I was doing, I bought some clay from an art store, and I don't know if this is a sign of me entering the Mr. Wilson phase of my isolation and loneliness, but I am working on clay people, which eventually will line my apartment, and I will have a whole lot of society happening here. And I don't know if that's a desperate cry for help or if it's the beginnings of a creative project that I am just wrapping my head around. I think it's when you start naming objects and giving them identities and personalities, that's when you should call a doctor. But we're gonna George Harrison just walked in.
We have to take a station break.
And what? And what else?
And sell some more oranges.
So I'd like to start before...
When you bite into an Oscar Mayer hot dog, what do you taste?
Hot diggity! Hot diggity, dog diggity, what you do to me. Oscar Mayer juice, hot dog diggity! Hot diggity, dog diggity,
Diggity from Oscar Mayer, the taste that made the hot dog the hot dog.
Oh, I wish there were an Oscar Mayer wiener. Hot diggity, dog!
What do you think of the Midas foreign car muffler guarantee?
It's a great day for my Datsun.
A triumph for my Triumph.
A victory for my Volvo.
From now on, you can Midas-size your foreign car and get the same famous guarantee we give American cars. It says if anything ever goes wrong, Midas will replace the muffler free as long as you own your car. Foreign car owners, now more than ever, it pays to Midas-size.
Whoop-de-doo for my Subaru!
Have you discovered the secret? The secret of oil of Olay, the mysterious beauty fluid that can help women look younger. Tropical oil and precious emollients replenish the skin's own natural fluids, easing the dryness that can make you look older. Feel oil of Olay penetrate instantly into your skin without a trace of greasiness. See your skin become softer, smoother, more radiant. Discover the secret of oil of Olay. It can help you look younger too.
There's a brand new bubble gum in town. Name a Hubba Bubba. It's soft, juicy, and delicious. Best of all, Hubba Bubba lets you blow great, big, fat bubbles that won't stick to your face.
Hubba Bubba! Big bubbles, no troubles.
You have a Hubba Bubble gum.
planning, building my whole world around you. I can remember hoping that you and I could make it on through, but something went wrong. We loved each other, we just couldn't get along. Take a good look at me, I'm in misery. Can't you see? But the love was a sweet love. Yes, it was. The love I love was complete love. The love I love, I will never, never, no, no, never, never love again. I can't remember nothing, no, 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 but the good time we used to share, my love. I'm so sad and lonely, but without you, my life is so dead. I'm sorry to say, you go your way and I'll go my way. It hurts deep inside the day we said goodbye. But the love, the love, the love, the love, I love, sweet love. The love I love was complete love. The love I love, I will never, never, no, no, never love again. I will never, never, never love again. Never, never, no, no, never, never love again. Yeah, 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 yeah. Never, never, no, no, never, never love again. It was a good love. I lost it. She was a sweet love. Sorry, I lost it. I thought I had you right here in my hands, but I lost it. I thought I had you all to myself. Sorry, I lost it. I didn't realize
Sorry,
exactly
I
what I
lost
had. But come on back home.
I lost it.
Come on back home, baby.
Sorry, I lost it.
Come on back home, baby.
I lost it.
My Lord, come on back home, baby.
Sorry, I lost it.
I wonder what you've been doing,
I lost
baby.
it.
I've been thinking about you.
Sorry,
I've
I
been worried about
lost
you. I've been wondering where you are.
I lost it.
What you been doing?
Sorry, I lost it.
Would you forgive me, baby?
I lost it.
If I got down on my hands and knees
Sorry, I lost it.
and begged you, please, would you take me back?
I lost it.
Take me back. Take me
Sorry,
back.
I lost it.
Yeah, 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 yeah. My Lord.
I lost it.
She was a sweet love.
Sorry, I lost it.
I wonder if there's anybody out there that feels like the way I do, because you lost it. Has anybody out there lost someone that kind of meant the world to you? If so, stand up and sing along with the children. Say it, y'all.
I lost it.
Say it, y'all.
Sorry, I lost it.
Say it, y'all.
I lost it.
Say it, y'all.
Sorry, I lost
Say
it.
it. Say it, y'all.
I lost it.
Say you lost it.
Sorry, I lost it.
Oh yeah, that was a dude. That was a group of dudes. That was Harold Melvin and the Blue Notes with "The Love I Lost," and hope I haven't lost any listeners since this program started. If it's a little lackluster, that could be accurate. But, you know, we pick it up as we move. We're moving the momentum upwards. I am trying to pick up the pace with the help of Cold Brew by Blue Bottle, a sponsor of the show I would like to have. That's a good way to kind of talk your way into some truth, is to leave long pauses in sentences. Say things like, oh yeah, you know who's coming... you know, I'd like to have Paul Rudd's going to be on the show over my dead body. That's I don't know why he would be the person that I would be so venomously against having. It's a way to it's a marketing trick basically. You front load the thing you'd like to be true, and you backload the reality as discreetly as possible. That's why I see a lot of legal disclaimers at the end of otherwise joyful ads, like T-Mobile is giving you free head lice. Well, that's not necessarily something you want. T-Mobile is giving you a free salad with every phone call. And then a small print with the asterisk, not true. I wonder if that's the next loophole, the next level of marketing is to say, we are giving away free gold, and then very small print, this is an entire lie. I think that's the next phase of marketing. We have cigarette ads already happening again. We have all sorts of misleading things being sold to us. Now, the one thing you can rely on is toothpaste and household detergents. When you need something fresh, detergent. I don't know. That's just. I got nothing here. We're spinning gears right now. My notes are all over the place. There's a little bit of a lack of focus. But you know who isn't lacking focus is the next comedian who's going to be on this program, Cathy Coleman. Doing a horrible job setting her up, but I think she could set her own self up very well by actually stepping in here and performing some comedy. Take it away, Cathy.
Ladies and gentlemen, coming to the stage is Cathy Coleman. Her name's Billy, but that's okay. So I'd like to start before we go any further with making an important announcement. For the safety of the performers and the audience, there will be no pussy grabbing at tonight's event. I hope that you're not disappointed. I would also like to state that I am not a puppet. You're a puppet. No, you are. You're a puppet. Did you ever think in your whole life that that would be a quotable line from a presidential debate in the United States of America? No, you're a puppet. So I am not a puppet, in fact, but I am a lesbian. I know, shocking. But anyway, I'm out and proud. I'm cool with being gay. The only trouble I ever have with being gay is the dating women part. It's a little bit confusing at times because sometimes there'll be a time when I'm getting to know a woman over coffee or lunch or whatever, and there's always a moment when I think, I'm on a date. I think I'm on a date. And then I look across at her and I think, yeah, she's not on a date. And that's just not good. So I've developed a game that I play in my head, which I call Date, Not a Date, wherein I try to ascertain if I'm actually on a date or if I'm on a date by myself. I've learned a few things. One thing I've learned is that if there's that eye-gazing thing, you know what I mean? It's a beautiful thing. That's a date, right? If there's eye-gazing at the waiter, It's not a date. Also, she is not gay. Yeah. If she shows up and she's decked out, she's made an effort to look good, maybe she's wearing earrings or something, she looks really good, yeah, that's a date, right? If she shows up in any item that is made out of fleece, it is not a date. You are not on a date if you are wearing fleece. You are on a hike. With a lesbian, maybe. But these things happen. Now, I gotta tell you that since I started telling that joke about the fleece, some of my friends have given me some grief because they say to me, Kathy, I have entire outfits made out of fleece. And what the hell is wrong with fleece anyway? You know, and I try to handle these awkward moments with the grace and dignity of my model, our presidential candidates. And I say to them, wrong. And they say, but I heard you say it in the show. Wrong. I don't know who these women are. I've never met these women. This is a media-inspired conspiracy led by my opponent, Crooked Hillary. Anyway, so I just want it to be a fleece-free zone, just for day one. That's all I'm asking. And then you can go back to wearing the fleece, which is lovely on your couch, in the blanket behind you. Just don't throw it around you and go, oh, I'm ready for my date. Okay. Anyway, my friends tell me that the best place to meet somebody to date is the dance clubs. And, you know, that's cool, I guess. You could make this a dance club right now if you want. Just shut off all the lights and blast the music. I do not understand how anyone meets anyone in a dance club. It's like trying to meet somebody as Helen Keller. You cannot see, you cannot hear. I did go to a club. I opened the door and it's all... And I made my way to the bar as best I could to talk to the cute girl who was standing there. And I said, hey, how you doing? And she's like, what? So I took her hand and I said, you are really cute. Will you go out with me? And that's when she hit me. And I don't blame her, because that's not right. Don't do that. Don't do that. So I'm single. I don't really have a love life to speak of. Occasionally I have, and I love you, but I'm not in love with you life. But that's very different. But it's okay, because I'm not necessarily looking for a relationship right now, mainly because people tell me, stop looking for a relationship right now. And I like to take their advice, because the next thing that they say to me is this. They say, you'll find it when you're not looking for it. When you least expect it, Kathy, that's when you'll find her. Isn't that adorable? One, fuck these people. And two, fuck these people. What kind of lame-ass advice is this? Did you bring home the milk, honey? No, I was looking for it. Stop looking for it. What the hell? Tell that to the 35-year-old guy in your basement. You know, it's not like I don't want to find a job. I'll find a job when I least expect it. Yeah, it's not easy, my friends. It's not easy. So, people tell me that, you know, women like the bad boy thing. You hear this? The bad boy. I'm like, I could be bad. Very bad. Ask anyone. Just because I'm a middle-aged math teacher doesn't make me not bad. Crying out loud. I'm very bad. So I did exactly what a badass would do. I went to Wikipedia, and I looked up, how do you be a badass? And this is what I learned. Let me show you what I learned. All right, here we go. Number 1, do not wear fleece. Check. Do you mind if I share this with you? It's a little weird for a comic, right? Oh shit. Number 3, stop asking permission for things. So you know what? I don't give a shit if you want me to read this. I'm totally reading it. So there. Because I'm a badass. Thank you very much. I'll be bad right now. You want to see something bad? Watch this. I'm bad. Watch this. Ha! Look at that. I'm not picking that up. I have to pick that up. I need that for next week. But I'm not going to recycling. So there. All right. That's my time.
Cathy Coleman. She's a badass. Wow. She is a professional. The professionalism that I am lacking today on this Friday. This microphone is the first person I've talked to all day. So I don't know if you felt in that boat, if you're working from home or you're just kind of working behind emails. The solitude gets real. So let's shift that up here. Let's have a real live conversation here. Let's see if Cathy's on the phone. Like, give a quick phone call. Hey. Hey, can you hear me okay?
Yep.
We just listened to you do some stand-up.
Yeah, turned it on.
Yeah,
I need to turn it off, don't I?
Turn it up, turn it off, turn it on?
I need to turn it off so that I don't hear you in the background.
Oh yeah, so you don't get that echo chamber situation where it's like you're live with W645 and now we're hearing lots of feedback.
Exactly. That's all we need.
Yeah. How are things going over there?
It's going all right, I guess. Are we on? Are we live or not yet?
We are live, believe it or not.
Live.
We are live broadcast to all the listeners, as many as there may be.
I think that's awesome.
I haven't checked all the numbers yet, but it's something, it's like under 6,000 listeners. So that's pretty good. Yeah. Just, under, take that as you will. Just the word under and the number 6,000, and that's technically how many listeners there are.
No, you don't want to go too big. You don't want to, set yourself up for a fall by setting,
Yeah,
I like
a small crowd. It's an intimate gathering.
Yep.
Of just some nice people.
I brought some coffee so it could be like,
like a talk show.
Keep Austin weird.
What is it?
Do you know Austin? Keep Austin weird.
Oh yeah. I feel like Portland's weird. Is there a trademark on which city is allowed to be weird?
That's a good question. I don't know. Portland is. That's true. Portland is weird in a good way. They're all. Yeah, it's true.
It's good weird. Have you ever? I'm actually about to pull a pizza out of the oven because I mistimed dinner with a piece of entertainment.
Okay.
There we go. There's pulling that out of the oven right there. That's some real life stuff inside of a thing.
This is what we do now in the apocalypse. We eat pizza out of the oven. That's what we do.
Yeah. Actually, my whole workspace right now is just literally a kitchen counter. So I just have to turn in 45 degrees. I can bake a casserole. Turn another 45 degrees. I can reach into the fridge. Turn another 45 degrees, and there's a dishwasher. Yeah. So it's all the world of convenience when you...
You got everything you need.
Yeah. Except a sane world.
Yeah, except for that. It's hard during the end times, Ryan.
It's hard to expect too much out of an apocalypse.
I agree.
Well, well, I just heard that this quarantine is going to be lasting longer than we originally thought. But I kind of think we already kind of thought maybe it was going to last longer, but now it's like confirmed it's going to last longer in some, which is it's a great thing to look forward to.
I know. I get why people are getting antsy. I mean, I think we're all getting antsy, but hopefully they're going to open it up in a sane, science-based way and not have to close it all down again. That would suck. It would really suck to, let's all go back to normal and then everything goes to hell. And I don't know.
Yeah, to open it up prematurely or just for the sake of keeping the economy alive, which is not how you keep human beings alive.
Right.
Which is, it's...
Yep. One day at a time. That's all I'm doing. That's all I think any of us can do.
It's just one day at any given point in time.
Yep.
Yeah. Which, hey, I think before this whole thing, it was just like, we were kind of living in a fast-track cyber reality where it's like, no, we need to have like hovercrafts right now.
Yeah.
Like people are jetting to get like advanced things, but to the point where it's like, we're not living in any concept of our physical world that we actually do live in. It's just like this hyper accelerated state of stay online, keep hustling, keep momentum building. But at the end of the day, it's like, what's the payoff? If you're just hustling and just constantly moving for the sake of moving, I think it's like a certain amount of like living with a greater sense of deliberateness or something.
Oh yeah. I mean, you have to wonder. I mean, it's like between the virus and the murder hornets and now there's a tornado warning as we speak.
Really? I did not hear that.
Yeah, until 10 o'clock. Yeah. So I'm like, you wonder, like, is the Earth trying to tell us something? Like, you need to back the hell down. You're on a bad track and you are in timeout. I feel like the whole Earth has said you are in timeout.
Yeah, all these biblical plagues happening.
Seriously, what the hell?
Yeah.
Locusts, murder hornets, I don't know.
I just turned on the sink and blood came out. Blood of my firstborn child came out of the sink, so I don't know what that's supposed to mean.
I think it's a bad sign. I'll say.
I gotta call the plumber and see if they have the gear for that.
Yeah, that's an unusual occurrence, I guess.
Yeah,
maybe not these days.
And statues of Mother Mary crying oil and
oh yeah, there
black.
You go.
So that's been that's just normal. That's just the new normal that we're living in.
It's messed up normal, but there it is.
Yeah. So how are you doing amidst all of this where there's no stages to perform, but how do you stay sane or creative or happy?
It's it's a process, I'll tell you. You're right, there's no stages to perform on. I had a few shows that got canceled, obviously, which was obviously the right thing to do. I haven't gone to many Zoom comedy shows, but I know that there's and I like to get and I would love to perform. It's a really interesting concept. You probably had people on who've done this.
Oh, like the virtual shows?
Yeah. Have you talked to anybody who's done one yet?
I'm seeing different lineups of things, show up on Instagram, but it's this thing where, like, I feel like everybody is live streaming at the same exact time.
Right.
Because there's no forum, there's no, like, headline institution of anything. It's all just so, like...
It's random, and I feel like it's hard to even know. Usually, a lot of times I find out about when they happen after they've already happened. But I've read a lot about how it's an interesting challenge for comics because we depend so much on a face-to-face audience, on a reaction from somebody. One time I did a mic in California where it was a virtual mic, and I thought that was interesting. I performed to an iPad that was on a tripod, which was kind of interesting. And I did this set, but the thing that was interesting was comments are scrolling up as you're doing this. And talk about distracting. It's like, nice tie. I'm like, thank you. And then where was I? It's just, that was, it was interesting. It's a very interesting idea. I don't think they perfected it yet, but I think, they're getting better at this kind of thing. I certainly hope that we can someday go back to a real show, face to face. But I think it, like you said earlier, I think it's going to be a little while. But, bless you. I'm working on a video for work, sort of a fun video project for my students, and that's how I'm keeping my. That's the best, most creative thing I've done lately. I find myself having a real hard time focusing. You said this earlier, and I'm like,
yeah,
I don't know. I've talked to a lot of people who are having that trouble.
Some of it's just like the social momentum, like. It's one thing if you have like a day where you go to work and at least you interact with like coworkers or just something, just kind of like it's just like you get so exhausted so easily because it's also just bland. Everything is just a bland experience of just and then you're trying to get yourself psyched up for something and it's kind of like it's it doesn't have the footing, like where you could do open mics and some of that, or it's like it just kind of keeps your muscle memory in tune.
I'm like, I thought about that with the Zoom shows. I'm like, what am I going to do? Pretend to have a mic like when I was a kid? This will be fun. Hey, everybody! Like it's just weird. It's a weird thing because holding that mic, grabbing that mic is like a thing, and it puts you in the zone.
Do you have that like a handular fixation of some kind where it's like you have to be holding something to do comedy?
I feel like it's so weird. I feel like I do. There's shows, obviously. There are shows where you don't the no mic. There used to be a show called, I think, the No Mic Open Mic or something like that. And they were in a very small setting and they didn't use a mic. But I'm like, I feel like I don't know what the hell to do with my hands. I'm like, I don't know, I'll put them in my pocket. I have to work that out. It's like, I'm so used to, doing this. And
have you thought of picking up like a smoking habit?
Ha! I should try that.
Hey, I'm one of those. I'm an Andrew Dice Clay type. That's.
Hey, bada beep, bada boom.
You do the whole that whole thing.
So that's what I need. When I started, I had a whole joke about people who lean on the mic stand because they, it's just kind of, they play with the mic stand, they lean. It's very badass, and I keep trying to do it. In my very first taped show, I did it, and the whole mic stand went
like a slow.
Just sank. Yeah, just collapsed. Yeah, that's not badass at all.
But did you try to just get into it? Be like, no, like you just do your act and slowly, like not. You're still committing to it. You're like, hey, I meant to be. I'm in a low groove right now.
Yeah, exactly. I'm like, this is exactly what I wanted to happen. I did. It worked.
So you offer in your stand-up clip, you're instructing or informing the audience. You do a public service of how to be a badass.
I try.
Do you have some other examples of how the listening audience or people who may be slightly corny can successfully be a badass?
Well, it's really funny because I've always wanted to have that sort of thing, and I've always known people, and I am the least baddest person ever. I'm more nerdy. I had an ex who used to call me Professor Plum. I'm more like that. I'm not that kind of, when I was doing that bit, when I was creating that bit, I kept looking for things like what would be a really stupid thing you would try to do as a badass, and on the podcast you can't hear it, but what I did in that thing is I crumpled up my set list out of my pocket and I threw it, and then I was like, I'm not picking it up. And then I'm like, oh yes I am. You have to pick it up. That's terrible. It's littering. So I would go and I pick it up. But I also tried breaking a pencil, but that didn't work well because one time I'm trying to break it and hold the mic and it's awkward, and then it's not breaking. I'm like, that didn't work out. So, and then there was one time at a show in Maine that I did with Dana. You might know Dana J.
Yeah.
Anyway, he and I did a show in Maine, and it was this tiny little stage that was really high off the ground. And first of all, I was a little freaked out. I'm like, I'm going to need to take a running start from outside this place to get on that stage because there's no stairs.
Yeah.
So I was I told the host, I'm like, you got to give me a hand up to the stage. So anyway, he gave me a hand up, but when I went to do throw the thing, I obviously couldn't pick it up because I couldn't get off the stage because I would not be able to get back on the stage. And at that moment, I forgot. I got lost in my set, which has only happened to me a few times.
That's the worst.
But that'll freak you out. And I'm like, doing this. So, and it felt like it was going on forever and ever. And I finally came up with an idea. I'm like, that thing I threw with the set list. I'm like, if I could just get somebody to hand me that set list, I'm just going to put it right through past my face like this, and I'll remember what the hell I was talking about. And I did. I said, you know what? That's littering. That's not. Even a badass isn't going to litter. And I had them hand it to me, and I just looked at it real quick, and I remembered where I was. But, I thought it was forever. It was only 25 seconds, but it felt like 25 years.
That's how
not one of my better badass moments.
Well, I'll say that I think recycling is the new trait of a badass.
Like, there you go.
It's this thing where the thing now to do is you gotta avoid meat. You have to be environmentally conscious.
Yep.
So that might as well be smoking in the girls' room, or something like that.
There you go.
Leaning up against a brick building and flipping a coin in the air, kind of thing.
There you go. Well, I meet those criteria. I don't eat a lot of meat, and I do recycle as much as I can. So there you go.
Well, there you go. I feel like now it's like we're living in the age of waste, because now it's like everyone's like, well, we have to throw away gloves. You're not allowed to wear the same mask twice. Whole Foods comes to your house and they just drop off just a whole paper facility at your door, and they say you cannot recycle these products.
Yeah.
And then they send you like all these, here's the freezing package, and then here's the paper one, and then here's the tinfoil one. And it's like, I mean, if there's any more elements they could dig up from the earth to make sure it's never used again, they're doing a great job of that.
And not to mention the plastic bags. I mean, now you can't use your reusable bags for good reason, but it's, I'm piling them up because they won't give you any other kind of bag. And I'm like, I'm sure they'll bring back the recycling of these eventually. And everybody's like, I don't think they're going to. I'm like, what am I going to do? I feel too guilty to throw them out.
Yeah. We are trained so hard, and especially if you live around Cambridge where they shade you. If you go to Whole Foods, they give you dirty looks if you ask for a bag.
Right.
So it's like, now it's just like, how dare you bring an outdoor bag that may be putting people at risk.
Well, they're doing the paper bags now. I don't mind. I think that's okay. I mean, at least paper will break down. That's not so bad, I guess. But
yeah, I don't know if this is helping or hurting, but like, I recycle the paper bags by using them as trash cans. And I think ultimately it's just a workaround. It's just a second step to being. It's like a buffer in between complete wastefulness and mindfulness. Like, I'm saving.
What you could do? Use it for your recycling, Ryan. That's what I'm doing.
Oh, recycling paper bag. And then
you might have a special bin and stuff, though. Do you have a special thing you have to use?
Well, we have, like, I live in an apartment, and we have, like, a blue trash thing and then just the brown ones. And sometimes, when you're going about your day and you're throwing away all sorts of things from Q-tips to cans of whatever, sometimes those things get mixed and you're like, I feel guilty about making this a recycling thing if there's, like, a banana peel in there.
Yeah.
If somebody's fishing around in there, and then they find like a tissue that you blew your nose in, and you just forgot, but you're like, but it's 70% recyclable goods, and then there's a little bit of a one thing that I hope you don't find at the bottom of it.
Right. You try not to do that, but it happens. It's what are you gonna do?
Yeah. Another thing. So you were talking about. This is not. There's no segue to any of this. I don't. It's just what I happen to know. But so you're a purveyor of fleece. I don't know. That's what work.
If I become famous, I'm worried the fleece industry is going to come after me like they did with Oprah with the beef.
Beef. Now she's into cauliflower pizza.
I think fleece, for the record, is a perfectly lovely, comfortable, comforting material. And I actually, I should have worn one. That would have been really fun. I wear it when I'm sitting here on my couch like I am now. Yeah. But I kept having women show up with it on first dates, like OkCupid, and I'm like, ugh, what do you do? Like, it's not like you have to be wearing an evening gown or something, or a tux or whatever. But like, for crying out loud, don't show up in fleece. It's such a lesbian thing, and I hate to say that. My apologies. I've never one time heard a straight woman say they went on a date in fleece, unless they were going on a hike for their date, maybe. But I just think it's a funny thing about my people. You know, I love my people, but sometimes they're a bit much.
You're a fleece-clad people.
You are. We're a fleece-clad people. It's true. We'll be all set if there's like an ice age or something. You know,
or a mild breeze in the fall.
Or a mild breeze. Exactly. It's not so great for an ice age.
Now, would that not be helpful for like a type of calling card or like I don't know if it's tough to, maybe it's like, you know, the idea of like you could say gaydar, but like a dar of some kind, like a LGBT dar, where it's like you can kind of, your instincts and your insight can kind of say, I have a good hunch on this, but for, you know, if you're shooting, you know, whatever you happen to miss, but like, wouldn't it be helpful in society if people just were, you know, without the risk of having people that would be, you know, bigoted or something like that, but be like, would it be so easy if people just had their stats like hovering over their head, kind of like
I would love that.
It's like
people might. I think a lot of people wouldn't like that because they don't. And I get it. I get the like. I don't like labels. Labels are like so like last century. I get it. I get it. But it is helpful for someone like me because I tend to be drawn to women who are on the sort of femme end of the spectrum and who are often straight. You know, my latest crush is Dr. Jen Ashton. Dr. Jen Ashton, if you're out there listening. I think you're awesome, and you're really smart, and call me. But anyway, she's almost certainly straight. But what are you gonna do?
Is this person a person of notoriety, or is it just a private citizen?
No, actually, no. She's no, because you know what the best thing to do, Ryan, is to develop a crush on a straight celebrity. That's my specialty. She's actually on ABC News. She does a thing every afternoon on ABC News. She's like a doctor who they ask questions to and stuff.
I got that. I could see that. You like the intellectual, like she could save your life type.
Oh yeah, and she's beautiful. Yeah. I mean, she's beautiful. She's just, and she's not that far from my age, which is nice.
Yeah,
I like that. You know,
is she kind of like a? What do you think about Dr. Pimple Popper? Is she a?
I don't.
Is she on your list too?
I'll have to look her up, Ryan. I feel I don't know. You're gonna have to fill me in. Who is she?
I think she's probably. I think you watch an episode and you're like, I think I'm all set. But I mean, it's more of just like, like it's not like one of those like, you know, you watch like an episode of ER and you think George Clooney's a hunk. It's like this show on TLC where it's like, it's part of the gimmick of it is that she specializes in squeezing people's like back knee and like gross goo comes out. But she's like a dermatologist, but like, it's one of those things where I don't know, isn't like working in a certain field just in general a turnoff in some ways? Like if somebody was a proctologist, wouldn't you not want to hold their hand in public or something?
Yeah, you try not. I try not to think that way, but yes, I think a pimple popper would be. Yeah, that's. You know, I try not to rule anyone out because it seems wrong and unfair, and
you can't discriminate.
That would be. I don't know. There are some things that are deal breakers, and if your thing is pimple popping, that's probably a deal breaker.
Like, hey, chase your truth and do it and love who you love, but you know, in some cases, I think let's keep that in a different category. Like,
I'm sure there's somebody out there for her.
I'm sure
and that's all good, right?
It's probably some zit-covered individual where she will find so much fulfillment in this person, just never running out of zits to pop.
There you go.
Yeah. There you go. But that's one of the things, it's like, you don't want to hear that. You don't even want to hear the name of that TV show when you're about to eat dinner. It's just like, ugh.
No, you really don't. And I would think maybe that show is on hiatus during the apocalypse because that's a tough hobby to have right now.
I don't think there's a lot of, it's not a great time for excreting bodily fluids for hobby. I don't think that's a good thing. It doesn't convert.
Inconvenient, really.
Maybe there's a digital zit she can pop. A virtual... You know, they make those toys that, like, I think it's like a stress relief type of thing. Or maybe it's just a child's toy, but they make, like, these zit packs where you can just squeeze them and little goo comes out of it.
Oh, Jesus. I was going to say the bubble wrap. Bubble wrap, you could pop bubble wrap.
That would be nice if it was just air that was being squeezed out.
Air is,
It's pretty safe, I think.
It's probably all right,
Yeah.
Somewhere online, there's a group of people that are bubble wrap people that are probably watching right now.
Oh, the ASMR crowd that just, it loves to hear a good...
That's right. Right. Yeah.
So you're a teacher.
Yes.
And are you doing everything remotely now? Do you have students that are tuning into digital, virtual lectures and things like that?
Yes, I teach GED students through a community college in Worcester, and we've been remote for the last few weeks, several weeks actually, and it's not too bad. We do a Zoom session, we put things up on Google Classroom. Our students are, they're having a hard time because, as you can imagine, many people that don't have a high school diploma are at the bottom of the rung in terms of jobs and stuff.
Yeah.
A lot of our students are PCAs and CNAs. So they're working in healthcare, and it's an extremely important role, obviously, all the time, but especially now. But it's really risky now. So they're super stressed out and super busy. And so, we're trying really hard to keep them engaged and in their path forward to move forward and get their diplomas. And, we'll see. I don't know whether we're going to be remote in the fall or not. It's up in the air right now, a lot of places, It's not easy. But Zoom has helped. On the whole, it's been pretty good.
I mean, that is a tough thing. How do you keep people spirited towards
right?
To keep them, even if they're paying money into an advanced kind of learning situation, where it's kind of it's a tough trial to be in, especially if you're I'm spending money to try to get ahead of something, and if you're not making money yet.
Actually, in our case, they're lucky because the course is funded by the Department of Ed. So these courses are free to students, which is really good.
Yeah.
But I hear you in terms of college students and stuff. I've got a niece who's about to graduate from high school, and, it's hard to know what the hell to do. What do? You do go off to college like it's normal, but you don't really know if it's going to be online or offline. And, some people really love online courses, and some people hate them.
Yeah.
And it's hard. It's hard to... it's hard to manage the time. It's hard, if you think about it, if you're living in an apartment and you've got a couple of kids, just finding a space to have a quiet conversation or to have to meet online with a teacher is really hard. So,
and to just focus on, it's one thing when you can leave your house and go off to a classroom, and then you're I'm relocated. Right. I'm focusing on where I am.
Yep.
But if you're stuck in your apartment and you're getting cabin fever and you're just kind of your apartment's dusty and it's giving you a allergy headache, and you're just this is just too much, and I don't want to learn anything. I just want to be happy and feel.
Absolutely.
You just want to soothe. Self-soothing. I feel is it's almost the number one focus.
Oh, absolutely. I'm very glad for my cat. I do meet that lesbian stereotype. I only have one though. I only have one. Dr. Jen Ashton. I only have the one cat. Not a crazy. But she's awesome.
I think at the end of the day, this video can be sent to her as a dating video, from the 80s. We'll cut the highlights together and we'll.
Oh, that would be nice. That would be. I don't want to look like a stalker though. All right, so don't make me look nuts. I'm not gonna go to your house. I'm not. She's almost certainly straight. That always is the way it is. But yeah, so we're making. That's why I'm making this video though for my students to keep them it's an uplifting. We're trying to send out messages. I'm having every teacher and every staff person, have a sign, and we're going to do a little background singing. It's going to be really cool and fun, and I hope it will give the students something to smile about, and so that they know they're not in this by themselves. We've got a great staff, and I think it'll be fun.
I feel that would be awesome to have a teacher that's a stand-up comedian. Do you have students that are I kind of don't care about any of this stuff. Tell me about doing stand-up. That's because it's I've heard of people that drop out of college and they go pursue comedy. And if you're going to chase your passion, I mean, it's one thing you're going to school to learn how to be an HVAC technician,
Right.
It's like you're going for trade and there's a cash to receipt, transaction there. But it's like, if you're a hoper and a dreamer and there's like I'm just taking general courses or I'm an English major, it's like, I feel like there's one of those things where, do you ever pull someone aside and say, well, actually, if it's free, I guess it's not a real big issue, but it's like, why don't you save your money and just leave? Like, go chase your passion, because a lot of your, like, if I knew that, like, when I was in grad school, like, that I would not have a job in the thing I was spending, my future of debt burden into, instead I was like playing piano in the theater room, and that's kind of the thing that was most excited to do there.
What were you majoring in music? Was that your degree?
I was a journalism major. Okay. It took me, I graduated in 2013, got like my first job in the field in like 2017. So it's like between those, I work in marketing, but it's like 4 years later after that, realized, there's no money in this, and I got to make a shift. But, I'm a musician and I do stand-up, and like those things they don't pay your bills at all.
Right.
But neither did journalism. I paid them. They didn't pay me. And then it's like, well, I was playing their pianos in their, they have a theater department. So I would go and like, you could rent piano space and piano time. So I would just go in there after classes, because I lived in Quincy, and would come into Boston and be like, if I'm up here, I'm just going to go jam on these pianos and try to teach myself how to play them. And I did some recording in there, but it was like, I feel like that was some of the most fulfilling things, the stuff I was doing around the focus.
Yeah. Yeah. Would you go back to journalism if you could?
Well, I was actually, the reason I kind of like, at the end of that, I was really disenchanted, because I had a professor who, it was when the Boston bombing happened. It was 2013. And I was there, where it's like, that was a journalist field day, is to go in there and capture that local news story. But like, so I had a professor send an email to the students, and it was from the Boston Globe editor. And it was like, hey, don't put yourself in harm's way, but if any of your students have any video or photographs of the explosions, I'd love if you'd send them our way. And I'm kind of like, should you maybe not, solicit harm towards students, to the casualty of I feel like there's a lot of aspects of journalism that are like, we have to print the stories at all costs. It doesn't matter how much human life that we have to scrape off the ground and take a picture of. Like, there's a lot of, the mayhem index is really, like, they have to be shocking and startling to really sell their product. That was the thing that turned me off. I was there, like, that was also when I went to like Boston Pride and like wanted to, that was the stuff I was interested in. Like, I think somewhat before that, like, gay marriage was legalized, and, Obama was in office, and all these, like, there's a lot of progress happening in Boston and stuff. So like, I want to focus on these stories where, like, showing the pockets of community and how people, the uplifting stories. And that's the stuff that never makes it into the newspaper.
Which is really sad, because I think there are a lot of things that, you're right about that. I mean, it's very sad. As I think back, I think journalism would have been I often think journalism would have been a fun career for me, because I love like doing what we're doing. I love talking to people and learning about things and asking questions, and I'm a fairly decent writer. I think it might have been like print journalism might have been a good thing. It's too bad it's largely disappeared. And it's become so commercialized, as you said, if it bleeds, it leads, and all that stuff. It's really sad, because we need the news stories. And, sometimes they'll pop one on at the end of the news sometimes. I mean, I watch the news, although I've been told I should sometimes take a news hiatus, because you're going to lose your mind. You can't keep the news on all day, every day, and stay sane. So,
have you been? I mean, are you someone who has to track each beat of the virus and all the other stuff?
I try not to. I try not to. I tend to watch. I watch Rachel Maddow. I watch Lawrence O'Donnell, and I usually watch the local Channel 5 news. And I try to keep it to that. But that's still a lot. I mean, that's still a lot. And if you think about all the local news, now the local TV news, you could watch news from 4 o'clock till 7:30. I don't do that usually. That's 3.5 hours of watching largely the same stories, over and over. Not always, but But it's funny. After the election, it was the same thing. After that video you showed was from 2016, and you could tell from the beginning little opening thing with, pussy grabbing and the puppet thing. That was from a debate that he had. But like after the 2016 election, I had a therapist tell me, I think it would be best if you took a little break from social media for a week, because I was losing my mind. I couldn't. I was spending all day long arguing with people online and just losing my mind. It was not healthy. It was not good. So
I had the same problem. Actually, this is the same thing a therapist told me that too, which I think even less so the news, but more so like get off of Facebook. Like, what do you like? Facebook is not just the news, but it's all of your people you follow sending you the same news story with their editorialization, or just out of context, just anger, just kind of like, ugh, I hate this. I hate that this world. And then like you're just like you're flooded by just negative reactions, as opposed to like I had to find an app that basically unfollowed all of my stuff on Facebook, to where my Facebook is just a purgatory of nothingness, except for maybe like one music thing I follow. Like there's these different groups that I'll follow maybe to be like, if there's a gig or an open mic or something, like there's a couple positive things I'll let come into my feed, but mostly it's like I can't have everybody's horror plummeting into my life, and late at night I'm scrolling because the aimless mindlessness, and you're just living in this, what am I using my life's time for?
Right. And I think a lot of us got smarter at filtering, and selectively looking, sometimes you just got to scroll by. You can't go to every fight you're invited to. You can't every Trump that this is a bad idea. You can't, I finally got better at that. Now I do things. What's really, and I believe I have to look up what this woman's name is. It's a woman. She's a comic, I'm pretty sure, and she has this thing, Pluto the dog. Have you seen Pluto the dog?
That's not.
It's a little
like Mickey Mouse's dog.
It's right. That's right. It was Mickey Mouse's. This is a little black poodle, I think. I don't know. I'm not good with dog breeds, but so sweet and so cute and very funny and goofy. And I'm like, and she talks for the dog, and it's like, but it's silly, but it makes me smile. And I need that. So I'm like, yep, I'm going to follow that.
And this is where you're getting all your news now.
Yeah, right? I'm like, I will get my news filtered through a talking dog, and that will be fine for me.
I could subscribe to that. I think that is what people need. It's just like, we know that everything's staying shitty. We don't need to keep hearing that. So it's like, do something else. It's like, we know, like, it'll come to us if there's a cure. And if Trump is impeached or blasted out or goes insane or his brain melts out of his ears, like that'll find its way into the TV watching or the whatever
we won't be able to miss that. Yeah. Well, it's funny because I'm always encouraging my students to watch the news just because, or to at least pay some attention to it, because I want them to be informed citizens, and it's also helpful for the social studies part of the GED. So. It's a good thing, but I also don't want them to lose their minds either. And so it's a balancing act, and I do tell them that. But you asked me a question about, do my students? A lot of my students don't know I'm a comedian. Sometimes they do.
You're undercover in your career, you kind of say, I'm going to leave that outside the workplace.
It's a really good question. Some of my colleagues know, some of them don't. A couple of them have been to see me. I don't think I've had students come to see me yet. Students after they graduate, if they want to friend me on Facebook after they graduate and get their GEDs, I'm like, okay, I'm not your teacher anymore. That's okay. Yeah. So those guys know more than my current students. I try to build in humor in my class though, because you have to. You have to. I teach math mostly, and I'm always looking for dumb math jokes. There's once in a while you come across a good one. I'm getting tired of why is 6 afraid of 7. That's a really bad third grade one. But, so if anybody has any math jokes, please send them to me at Catharama7@gmail.com.
Yeah, that might be a valid job. Let's punch up curriculums. Like, get comedians.
I would love that.
Because how many times? I mean, it's an epidemic. How many kids fall asleep in the class? It's like, get some better content in there. Get it.
We need some material. We need better material, math teachers and everybody else. I don't know. I couldn't get through a day without humor. I couldn't. And I want my students to know that. You know, we're all of us are taking life too damn seriously.
Yeah.
Everybody. You know, you have to. I mean, not that life isn't serious. Like right now, it's obviously a seriously clusterfuck. But you know, if you don't, what is the point of living without laughing? You know, you have to find the funny somewhere.
That is a great statement. And that's also, like, I feel like it's a perfect button to a very good talking interview. But I guess, what was the other thing? Are you teaching your students media literacy? Because that's
not as much as I would like. That's funny you should say that. I literally just wrote. We were asked in a staff survey about things that we wanted to focus on next year. Yeah. And I said I would like to try to write more media literacy into the curriculum because I don't think there's ever been a more important time. There's never been a more important time for this. So,
Just the reactive, using fake news as a comeback, which is like, you can't take facts and just write it off as an insult. You know, it's like this, you know, you can't, it's like there's proven methods of, it's just the whole idea of like people giving into the gut feelings as opposed to, no, there's methodologies, there's practitioners of journalism and fact finding that here's where you find it, and don't listen to these influential idiots. Like these people that have the loudest voices aren't the ones conveying the most truth.
Oh, I totally agree. And I think that, unfortunately, not everybody, but I think my students tend to be prone to listening to that stuff, to the conspiracy theories, because they're not well versed in things like the scientific method, which is what you're talking about. You know, did they do a blind study on that? Did they, you know, who funded that study, or what is the source reputable? Is this data, you know, do you see this in more than one place? You know, they'll send me YouTube videos once in a while. They'll send me an email or a text message with, you know, like, hey, what do you think of this? Oh my God. And like, you know, the plandemic or whatever the heck it is. I'm like, oh God. I'm like, okay, so we should look at what the source of this is, and let's, you know, look at, you know, can we pick out the facts and opinions? I mean, that's an important critical thinking skill. I mean, that's something that both kids and adults need. And it's never, like I said, I think it's never been more important than in this age of Trump, when you've got the president of the United States spewing conspiracy theories and bold-faced lies day after day after day.
And he's using his platform to just sell his products. Like, that's the other thing is, like, you got to look, everything has an underlying motive. Like, and it's like, you can't watch a TV commercial and say, I trust this. It's like, you don't, like, people think just because it's out there, it's on a public forum, that it's well-intentioned, where it's like, I'm seeing tobacco ads come back on TV, which has to be due to Trump's deregulation of everything. So it's like, all this stuff where it's like, there's, most things have their own service at stake, but if it's somebody who's not making any money doing it, or if it's like, you know, they are a scientist or something, their job is to, you know, whatever it is. It's not like they're scooping out some cash by influencing opinion.
Right.
It's like that's the...
Wow, you saw a tobacco ad on TV. I can't even remember the last time I saw that. I was enjoying your retro ads there with Hubba Bubba Bubble Gum.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
I'm trying to sell products that don't exist anymore.
There you go. That's the kind of marketing I enjoy.
Because it's harmless, you know, no one can buy it. So it's like, let's point to this advertisement as something that's either it's so anachronistic, there's so many cultural undertones, there's a lot of baked in racism or sexism.
Yeah.
Where it's crazy, and like you see depiction. That's why like representation is such an important thing. Like you see I was playing this on the show, but it was just a Campbell's soup ad, harmless. It's soup, and then it shows a black mom and her child, and the mom's picking on the kid, and it was like mocking him, like, "Mom, can I have some soup? Can I have some soup?" It's like, "Mom, do you still love me?" And then it's like it shows the white mom and the white kid, and it's just this pleasant, peace, easy going. Here's some soup. Oh, I love you. I love you. It's like, why are you depicting like she's a bitter mom who doesn't care for her children, but the soup makes it all better?
Yep.
That's the stuff.
Stuff like that. You look at stuff from the past. It's funny. I have a love-hate relationship with stuff like that. Like I did a lesson a long time ago where I did a radio mystery program, and I had it, on a CD or whatever. And I played it, and they use in the story. It's a classic. They made a movie out of it too, called Dial M for Murder. It's about somebody who overhears their own murder on a phone line.
Oh wow!
And she starts to freak out and whatever. And she is in the play. They refer to her as an invalid. Now there's a word you don't hear very often. That literally says invalid.
As a human.
The word invalid, if you pronounce it the other way, is invalid. Like, what a word to use. And that was very common in the 40s, that word. And nobody thought it was bad or mean or wrong or anything. They just didn't think about it that much. And so we talked about it in my class. Also, in the play, the bad guys have this Russian accent, this strong Russian accent. I'm like, that's interesting. Why would they have the bad guys have a Russian accent? What does that mean? So we had a great conversation about it. But I love the old ads in terms of like I love the jingles. I love the music in them.
Yeah. They're produced it's like entertaining content.
Yeah.
So it's like it feels good to experience, but packaged in that is the thing that they're selling. Which if it's toothpaste or detergent, it's not harmful. But if it's like, you're selling there's also cigarettes. Like you see the Fred Flintstone and the Barney Rubble thing.
Yeah.
And then there's even some sexist notions.
Oh, big time.
Where it's like...
Oh, they definitely are. They definitely are. And you can hear it. And I think... Well, and that's why media literacy, I think, is such an important thing. Because you can... When you listen or watch or consume any kind of media, whether it's online, offline, streaming, radio, to whatever extent people listen to the radio, or an old radio show or whatever... you gotta filter through what part, it's really nice. That story was lovely and it's a simpler time, but oh dear, I don't like this part, and that part has a meaning that I don't approve of or I don't agree with. But at least you can recognize that and understand it. I think that's the key. People are putting out lots of content, and we need to help. I think we all need to be so careful about what does it mean, and look deeper. Look at the next level,
Yeah. There's definitely an idea of low-hanging fruit, and then there's maybe spend some time, think about the implications, ramifications, who's experiencing this. You know what I noticed, which is, I pay attention to this stuff all the time, and maybe because I just watch too much TV, but we're
all doing that now.
The Jake from State Farm ads.
Oh, Jake. Yes, I've seen that.
Jake turned into a black guy recently. Did you notice that? So back in the day, there's this ad where it's it's the husband and the wife come downstairs, who are you talking to? He's like, it's Jake from State Farm. And then, back in the day, it was just some white guy with khaki pants. Now they play the same ad nowadays. It's the same acting, it's the same actors, it's the same footage that they used originally. But when they cut to the video of Jake, they made him a black guy, which is... But I look at that and I'm like, it's... If you've seen these two ads and you're like, are you just going to go ahead and switch the person with it? But then the other side of that is they're definitely appealing to an audience. When they're choosing to say, maybe we shouldn't have all the actors in this commercial be white, and then you make the Jake guy a black guy, and all of a sudden you're like, well, now, they're including people in the purchasing. I notice that in advertisements all the time is when they make them more inclusive or diverse as a thing, because then you're like, well, because then you look back and even however many years ago, every commercial was just white people. And then you start to see advertisements where it's a house insurance thing, and then it's a same-sex couple, and they start to, those things have changed in the past couple of years.
Yeah. And it's there is definitely something to be said for representation. It feels different. As a gay person, it feels different to see a Subaru ad or something, or an ad for a furniture store where they show a same-sex couple. It helps. And it wasn't very common until very recently. It's still not that common, but at least it happens. So, absolutely, we should have people from, a broad variety of backgrounds, racial backgrounds, ethnic backgrounds,
Yeah.
I think it's important,
It's, that's the thing that you want to hopefully see. And I think some of that is like, it's a note of distinction is when companies start to match society. Like how, like Nike, how they kind of got on board. They made a commercial featuring Colin Kaepernick. Like he became their spokesperson after he, so it's like they consciously said, we're taking a position on this. So it might alienate the people that are like, the get up on your stand, basically the racist people that are like, don't protest things that are unjust, let it happen. But it's like, but the people that are like, yeah, it's cool that they took a stance as opposed to being Mr. Neutral and saying, we don't want to harm anybody. It's like, we're going to focus on this and say, this is what's important, because now it's like brands are realizing, or whether it's earnest or not, but I see like, all these TV commercials that are showing compassion, or they're like, we donate 1 million meals to Feed America because of this. And we're trying to, so like, I don't know if like it's just in vogue where it's like companies with a conscience is a thing now, but it's almost like, our votes don't mean anything. No matter what we do, we're going to have to choose between a pedophile, sexual assault person in this next election. So it's,
Ryan, I hope not.
Those are the two choices.
I don't know what to say about that.
Biden, which is a touchy-feely, has an outstanding sexual assault allegation. He voted in favor of segregating schools in the 70s, or Trump.
I have problems with him. He was not my first choice by any stretch. However, I cannot imagine not voting for him, because we have to get Trump out. We just can't survive another 4 years. Look at the amount of damage. He's literally, as bad as I thought it would be, it's so much worse.
It's so exponential.
He's literally killing people, essentially, now.
Oh, by putting them back to work and by killing the infectious disease unit, by setting us back months when we could have had cures and technology.
All of
and
the
denying
environmental rules. He's rolling back every possible, packing the courts, the Kavanaugh thing. And so many, and RBG can't hold on forever. God help.
She's as many times as she can overcome cancer, which she has, and like come back from a broken rib. How is it that our only hope in the Supreme Court is like a near 100-year-old woman who's survived cancer multiple times? Like that is
it's horrible. It's horrible. And the idea of him putting somebody else in with a Senate that's led by Mitch McConnell is horrifying to me. It's hard. It will be generations of rolling back all kinds of civil rights, especially for women.
Yeah.
We're already on the chopping block. So I just, I don't know. It's I understand people's concern about Biden. And I think it should be investigated. And I think, I hope that since the 70s he's had a change of mind and heart. I do think people do change their minds.
Well, he has had a change of minds, but more in the sense of a brain condition.
He was. I don't know what to tell you. I know.
It's so.
Let me ask you a question. What if he chooses Elizabeth Warren as his running mate?
Yeah, that would be great.
I adore her. I love her so much. I think she's awesome.
Yeah.
I don't love her as much as Dr. Jen Ashton, but it's in a romantic way.
Yeah. It just needs to be someone to offset his neutrality. His political ineffectitude.
Centrist.
Yeah.
Is that a word, centricity? I think I made that up.
Centricity? Well, I know
his being a centrist is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, which is another way of saying a Republican from the 80s. It's like as these
not today's Republicans
spectrums move, but now centrists are conservative, but in Democrats
I would say
are
more like
conservative.
Republicans from the 70s, maybe. Yeah. they started to go downhill in the 80s, I think, or
well, even Reagan was in support of immigrant rights.
That's right.
So that was
That's
back even
so far. Yeah, they've gone so far beyond. Yeah, they're beyond the beyond. It's.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
we're going to get them out. Me and you and everybody else. Well, everybody watching.
Everybody.
Even though we're upset and we don't want to, we hate the choice between the two people, but still vote, okay? You can do it. Okay.
So I respect that you are not controlled by your emotions, whereas I'm like, Bernie was only the person where he chained himself to black woman in the 60s during the civil rights movements. There's no one more authentic. And
I hope he had their consent, Ryan.
Oh, well, I think I don't think
it's not right to go around chaining yourself to women. I mean, I've tried that as a dating thing. It doesn't go.
Maybe it would work with this doctor you're coming after. Maybe that would be a.
Let's not.
How did these handcuffs come upon our wrists? It looks like we got to spend eternity together. It looks like that's our only solution here.
Yeah. There's much to admire about him. I hope he continues to push the envelope. I would like to see him do, good work in the Senate. I feel the same way about Elizabeth Warren. I think, part of me is like, oh, but you're doing really good work in the Senate. Keep doing that. I want to see you keep do that. And part of me doesn't want you to leave. It may, who knows?
Well, the president can only be so influential, and they only get maximum 8 years. So, I guess it was just I want the person who is the most purely, obviously good for all person. But, if it's a matter of, all right, somehow Mitch McConnell gets his way out of here and blue takes over the Senate, it's that would be the real emphasis of control. What if one of these people, like a Bernie or a Warren, became the House Speaker or the majority leader?
That would be amazing.
That would be the way to be now we're going to actually do something. We're not going to take vacations during a national pandemic. And
yeah, exactly. I think that, that's right. And that's why I think it's going to be super important to get out the vote, even if you hold your nose and vote, but whatever. Ed Markey, I think, we gotta. I don't know. We've got to. I mean, Massachusetts. I think we get lulled into a false sense of security because some of us are living in a bubble, in a little liberal progressive bubble, and I think we've got to be really careful. The rest of the country is obviously not there, and
what's an liberal urban bubble like? I live in Somerville, and it's this, from what I hear, Somerville predominantly voted for Warren, and but then you look at it in a state scale, and her numbers were lower than Bernie's, but even look at it at a wider scale, then Biden eclipsed both of them. So it's depending on where you are, you can have a false reality of
Absolutely.
What the majority of humanity either thinks or is going through.
I think people are scared. I think a lot of people voted Biden because they are, he felt like the safe choice to them. And they were afraid of, I don't know. I think people are afraid sometimes. With Bernie, I don't know. I mean, I don't really want to get into the whole Bernie thing. I like Bernie. I voted for him in 2016.
Yeah.
But I also have some concerns about him. He needs to stop yelling at people. I don't want to be yelled at. Nobody wants to be yelled at. Stop wagging your finger. I think, he's got some issues. I have some issues with him. But at the same time, I agree with you. I think he's a basically good person who has lots of good ideas. And his ideas are starting to come around.
Yeah.
I mean,
I see that.
Right? I mean,
that stuff is
Medicare
shown.
for all, this is our current situation is certainly giving credence to the idea that everyone should have health care.
That is good news. I mean, that is good news that's coming out of bad news, where it's we've proven what we need. It's not even like you can hide it from people or try to twist or manipulate the system and say, you have all these politicians saying it's basically thought control kind of stuff, where it's you have whoever was running for office, like Bloomberg, was we're not going to take away your they frame it we're going to take away your options by giving you mass health care for all. like as opposed to giving everybody an option. And it's not a matter of, they're not going to come to your house and say, we're relinquishing your health care. It's like,
right.
Do you think people would complain if all of a sudden their health care turned free? Or if all of a sudden their taxes stay basically the same, but we're going towards health care instead of war and salaries of people that don't do anything?
I agree. Oh, I totally agree. I mean, I think that, you think about how many people are married to abusive spouses that they have to stay with for health insurance, or jobs that they hate, that they would leave tomorrow if they didn't need the health care. I mean, that's a lot of people in this country. I mean, you talk about freedom, and, we want our freedom. We want our freedom of choice. Well, how about the freedom to not have to stay in a horrible job in a full-time status if you because you need to have health care? There's a lot of people in that situation too.
Yeah, well, it's like the capitalism is just a form of, it's just a prison system where it's like people feel,
they were practicing it. It certainly is. That's for darn sure. Yeah. Oh yeah.
And the people walking around with the old key, the ring of keys, are the CEOs that are like, oh, you have your bare minimum wage and you have your just enough to survive wages, while I'm walking around free as can be and don't have to be accountable for anything. But it's like,
well, I think this kind of society where you continue to have this giant gap between the haves and the have-nots is it's never led to good things in history. Let's say it that way. It led to the French Revolution. It led to the American Revolution in a lot of ways. There's not, which is not to say I'm not, for the record, I am not recommending an armed rebellion here. Well,
I
have a joke about that actually. Where a Trump guy told me that if Trump is impeached, he said this to me on Facebook. He's like, we're going to be out there. We're going to have our guns. I'm like, oh, yeah, you're not the only side with guns. Yes, they are. Yes. The left does not do guns. The left does yoga. But
yeah, which is, hey, you see all that stuff where, I don't know, how many conservative presidents have been assassinated? It's because, Democrats don't carry guns or they don't believe in violence. It's like, well, they walk up there and say, I'm going to take you out because I don't want you here. But it's like, hey, we're the ones trying to save lives and you're the ones trying to end lives. And
that's an interesting history question. I mean, Reagan, they tried to shoot Reagan.
Yeah.
But that guy had mental health issues, I think, right? I forgot his name.
Reagan
tried to shoot Reagan.
Reagan had mental health issues.
Yeah, well, that's true, too. Yeah, that's true, too. Yeah. I forgot what the heck the guy's name was. He was obsessed with Jodie Foster. I remember that. That was a whole thing.
That does sound familiar. I don't know what that story.
Remember that? Yeah. You're probably, I mean, I was a kid, but anyway, we'll have to Google that later.
Well, yeah, I think what we were trying to touch in on is like, it's just it's a bleak situation, but like, safety is a relative thing where it's like, is Biden the safe choice or is he the one that's going to lock in Trump? Because, if he's...
Hope not.
I just feel like even his mental capacities aren't even... It's almost like Trump and Biden both have some kind of a degenerative mind disease. But which one
Yes, but one of them is pure, unadulterated evil. And the other one is Joe Biden. I'm like, I hear you. Like I said, he wasn't my top choice, but... I'm just like Trump in a freaking heartbeat. Hell yeah.
So you're blue all the way, like whatever it takes to get blue over red.
Hell yes. Yeah. Hell yes. I think it's too important, Ryan. I think it's too important not to. With the Supreme Court, you mentioned earlier, I mean, how many cancer bouts is Ruth Bader Ginsburg going to get through before the next person gets to put somebody else in? And I can't imagine what that would look like. I just can't imagine losing another seat. I mean, it'll be generations of problems. And big problems that affect more than just me. You know what I mean?
Those are lifetime appointments. Which
exactly.
Is what are we doing having anything in government be a lifetime appointment? Like, and why doesn't Congress have term limits? And why is there so much, like, there's all this room for stuff to go awry? But even still, it's like when Obama tried to nominate a judge, McConnell was still in there from that decade, and he is stonewalling it. and all of a sudden Trump comes in, breathes in this rapist. Just get him right in here. He's an alcoholic rapist with a lot of emotional instability issues and a history of blocking women's rights.
Yeah,
but then didn't he get 2 judges in there? Like after Scalia died, and then another guy came in.
Yeah,
was that Garland? Or no, that was.
Oh my God! How come I can't remember? Kavanaugh, and he did get 2 in. Who was the other one? It wasn't Garland. Garland was the one that Obama wanted, I think. Right?
Yeah, Merrick Garland. That was Obama's choice?
Merrick Garland was the one that I think Obama wanted. What is his name? Now I'm forgetting what his name is. Brain moment. I don't remember what his name is. But yeah, it's bad. It's bad.
He wasn't as overtly, whatever, polarizing as that other guy, but I think even still,
bad, but he's pretty bad.
I'm sure he still had a record of convicting wrongful black people in prison. I think that was something that's a note, but it's like, it's pretty interesting that you forget a guy's name who put so many people in jail innocently, and then that person is a Supreme Court judge. Like how quickly all this stuff just happens, and can't do anything about it.
The number of horrible things is so high and has come so fast since he got elected in 2016. It's hard to keep track of, which is why I think I can't be the person. I just can't get behind this idea that both parties are the same and they both suck and I'm not going to vote. I'm like, the people who didn't vote for Hillary, I'm sorry, I don't think you caused it, but I think you didn't help the situation. I'm like, in swing states especially, it was such a slim margin, and she made mistakes too, but she wasn't perfect either. But you can't tell me that things would be the same under her. I don't think we'd be,
we'd have a pandemic solution. We'd have wheels in motion.
And we wouldn't have Kavanaugh, and who's going to be there for decades. I mean, the guy is only in his 50s. He's going to be there for decades. So elections have consequences, and they're big ones, big ones, and they are biggest consequences for the people who can afford it the least. I mean, we're relatively protected by our white skin, honestly.
Yeah.
But I think I think of the kids in the cages. We wouldn't have kids in cages under Hillary Clinton. I don't think we would have that. I don't think it wouldn't be perfect, and it wouldn't be progressive enough for a lot of us, including me.
But it was basically a tactic to scare people, to scare immigrants from, crossing the borders. Like, we have your children. Like, isn't there? They had pictures of Trump's picture. Like, it was like such a 1984 piece of imagery.
Of all the things, I think I'm most horrified by that. It keeps me up at night.
I'm just like, how are World War II happens after Hitler tried to take over all these territories, cause all these atrocities to his own people. At what point does the rest of the world step up and say, now you are the aggressor, and now we're gonna take, we're not using appeasement anymore. We're gonna come after. We're gonna bring some tanks into America, and make this a war-torn region.
I know,
it's a fascist country. You have
to wonder. Somebody's got a line about that. Somebody's got a joke about, like, they were so surprised that, like, in the future, in World War III, America would be Germany. That we'd be the bad guys. Certainly the rest of the world is looking at us with horror and pity.
Yeah, luckily they're educated enough. They have a system of education and healthcare that lets them know it's not the people, it's the leaders. Whereas our country is feeding all this propaganda saying it's China's eating whatever, and they're causing viruses. It's like, it's all this just framing where people that don't have any access to education in this country, which is systemic, believe what they hear, as opposed to, like, no, we know how to sort humanity, and like, it's all media literacy stuff where it's like,
right, you're right.
You put it in perspective here. Like, it's the person who bought his way into an election, but he has nothing to say on behalf of any of us. He's causing atrocities, and we're like, it's Poland in 1945, and we're like, what are you doing with all these Jews in cages? Like, what are you doing separating people at the border? What are you doing not treating your people and stealing money from them while they're hemorrhaging in their health care, and you're causing you're taking
No,
money
I
from
keep
people's
thinking
cancer.
there's going to be something that's going to take him down. I keep thinking. I mean, it's hard to believe that he's just going to get away with the kind of atrocities that he's committed.
He's been impeached. It's like impeachment doesn't even work anymore.
Not when you have. I think I wonder what the founding fathers, what was their plan if 2 out of 3 branches of government were compromised. The checks and balances aren't going to work if you have all the branches compromised. I mean, right now we're in danger of having the Supreme Court compromised. I mean, they are to a degree with Kavanaugh and stuff, but
the Constitution doesn't even work anymore. Like, how many times things have been unconstitutional, but at the same time, it's like we tote this narrative of we believe in the founding fathers and the vision that they set forth, like all these things that are institutional, but it's like, yeah, but you break that all the time so you can take advantage and steal some money from the system. So it's like...
It's pretty bad. It's pretty bad, and I think it's going to take a lot of us, and it's going to take a lot of work, and it's going to take a lot of grassroots work, the kind of thing that Bernie really did a huge service, honestly.
Yeah.
Getting, lighting a fire under people and getting... I think... he talks about having a movement, and I think that's true. Yeah. Hopefully the movement isn't a cult. Hopefully it goes beyond just the personality of the one person. If there's something of substance, and I think there is, to what he says, then hopefully that movement will continue. And they'll continue to push people, and they'll continue to do good work, and continue to try to work to make things better. Because otherwise we're all screwed, We have to... I guess I have to keep believing that. I'm trying to, I can't believe it's all going to go to shit. I mean, as unrealistic as that sounds.
I mean, we're wearing, masks on our faces and bandanas and all these things. It's like we're one Molotov cocktail away from just we're ready for a revolution. I mean, I feel like I think...
I've thought that many times.
There is going to be a civil war or a revolution of some kind, and I feel like the internet has made people complacent and passive, but it's like, if people step out of their house and take a look around, maybe they're like, maybe some buildings should get burnt down or something, maybe some...
I am not going on the record on this podcast as saying that I want buildings to be burned down.
That's not your word. Well, yeah, I'm not in favor. I'm not endorsing
arsonism.
arsonism.
I suggest you do that. I'm not in favor. And they got these clowns out there with their guns protesting, that everybody should be opening up.
Well,
I'm not
that's just
that.
Dumb. That's just they're acting against their own health and their own well-being.
And everyone else's. Ray. Do you know Ray Harrington? He'd be great for your podcast. I love Ray Harrington. He's awesome. He's a Rhode Island-based comic, and he posted something that I retweeted or whatever today about wouldn't it be nice if patriotism meant you wear your mask and you take care of each other, as opposed to patriotism meaning fuck you all and I don't give a shit about my mask and I'm going to do whatever the fuck I want because I can. Like, that's not what patriotism is. Those people are not patriots. They're freaking terrorists. Yeah. They're and dumb terrorists on top of it.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I think
we got to keep the faith. Yeah. Got to keep the faith. Keep like some kind of laughing.
Yeah.
Maybe you can.
I think that's the best way to leave it. I feel like the more we carry on in this direction, the more frustrating and embittering and just not productive it becomes, where it's like, yeah, you're right. Like, it's... Yeah,
you might want to edit some of that.
Well, if this wasn't being live streamed, I'm going to let the audience go back and edit it for themselves in their minds and say, just cut out in between all the parts where it was just hammering on the same point, the same... liberal oasis.
As long as it's not more than 6,000.
6,000?
As long as we don't go past our 6,000.
6,000 listeners?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we're definitely under 6,000. I can guarantee that. So, okay. But I think this has been a great chat. I feel like we could talk endlessly.
Yeah, I enjoyed it. Maybe
we could do this again in a couple of weeks, or later on down the road when
I would love that.
Yeah,
I would love that. Let's we gotta keep keep the lines of communication open. We got to keep laughing. We got to keep entertainment going. I think it's awesome that you have this venue and that you're doing something to entertain the masses, you know? It's important.
Trying. I mean, mostly there is a self-serving component where it's like, there's nothing. I got to do something. And like, and people who, you know, there aren't venues that are booking anybody. And if you're someone who needs to express or communicate, it's like, trying to have that, you know, some kind of staple of, you know, something to come back to, I guess, is just healthy outlet.
Absolutely.
But it was a delight talking with you. I feel like maybe we could talk, well, I don't know how many months away the election is or however that's going to look, but I feel like...
Oh, yeah, that'd be fun.
You know, it would be nice to have things be calmer, but I don't know if society's going to get like that, so...
Yeah.
Either way, it's nice talking with you, and if you know, if all of a sudden it is like a Mad Max society or something like that in the next couple of months, so be it.
Well, bring it on. I don't know. We'll do our best, right?
Yeah, that's all you can do.
All right. Well, nice talking to you, Ryan. Thank you.
Great talking with you, Kathy. Thanks for coming by.
Thank you. Take care.
Have a great evening.
You too. Bye.
Bye. That was Cathy Coleman. How delightful of a human being is that? You might have been able to detect that we are slightly liberal in our dispositions. So if much of that was felt a little preaching to the choir of that choir, sorry, that's. But also, if you are in that choir, then maybe, hopefully, there was something in there that you took as a form of solace or that resonated with you, or you are also as angry and hopeless and also leaning forward towards the solutions and also trying to get out of your own way and say, yeah, I know there's videos out there of Joe Biden touching children for you know, whatever. He's in the White House with families, and he's wrapping his arms around young girls and touching their hair and pretending to talk to someone on his left while he's also like touching their cheeks in a weird way. I know those videos exist out there online, but you know, that's the guy who's going to make it so we pay attention to the pandemic. So, hey, if you ever thought that your Superman would have a degenerative mental illness, that's just that's the comic book you missed out on. That's what Superman looks like in real life outside of a fictional metropolis. It's the 70s groper with dementia who just happened to come around and hang out with Obama, who was a cool president. He was a cool guy. He sang soul standards to his wife on national television. He brought all sorts of you know, cool culture stuff into the archives. Like he's the reason why you could probably find some Philadelphia soul music in the National Archives. So, you know, there's that. But, you know, Biden was basically just a barnacle on his bumper. And that's what he's using to smooth his way into the minds and hearts and timid shoulders of America. All right, let's shift out of politics mode, because that's how we stay angry. If you keep thinking about politics, you know, there's not a lot of gray unless you're talking about something else. All right, so let's take a commercial break. We're going to have a musical guest come named Ben Mueller from the band, what are they called, Low Ceilings? I feel like it sounds a lot like a issue if you're living in an apartment in Alston. I got low ceilings because it's a rent-controlled community here. They do not allow us to have affordable housing, even though most of the population here is young people trying to earn a living and find their way into the career market. Instead, I have a landlord trying to get me to sleep inside the floorboards for $900 a month. Yeah. So how do we shift this? I think this is how we do it. Hello?
We'll return after these messages.
It's the first Christmas you can get one for that. A real sun camera, too. A piece of the sun to turn bad light into good pictures. And now, the richer colors of our new 600-speed film. Red are reds and blue are blues, and you see them in seconds. That's why Polaroid pictures make such a difference on Christmas.
How do you know what they want for Christmas?
I even know who's been good and who's been bad.
Polaroid makes the difference.
Looks easy.
Pam says it makes life a little bit simpler.
Salvo.
Relax, Mom. No one takes better care of her husband.
Oh! Hey, you two talking about me. Only nice.
Simple, sure Salvo tablets. Real help for the busy working woman.
No. No. No, no, no. No, I don't like it. No. I don't like it. Yes, they're fantastic. They're just fantastic. Yes, they're beautiful. Yes, I love them.
Socialites, the choosy woman's choice.
Perfect sleeper. Perfect sleeper. Perfect sleeper by Serta.
Hi, I'm Joey Heatherton. Serta's Perfect Sleeper mattress is something great to sleep on. It gives you firmness and comfort. It's the perfect combination. You'll love it. Now, instead of counting sheep, you can count on a good sleep. Be a perfect sleeper. Buy a perfect sleeper, perfect sleeper. Buy a Serta. Woo!
I'm June Lockhart, and I've served a lot of fried chicken to my family. But fried chicken can be a little greasy. That's why I'm so happy with shake and bake. You shake and bake. No frying. So your chicken comes out crispy, but not greasy like fried chicken. You could really taste the difference. Crispy, but not greasy like fried chicken. Shake and bake. It's better than frying.
You know what I tried? What? Pristine. Pristine? Feminine hygiene spray.
Oh, that's right. How do you like it?
I like it. I use it every morning now.
Does it really do anything for you?
Yeah. It lets you feel fresh and it lasts a long time.
You think I'd like it?
Gee, I don't see why not.
Pristine Spray Mist or soft new Pristine Spray Powder. They both last a long time.
Was that an ad about deodorant? Everybody's staying fresh out there. Hope everybody is feeling good. It's raining outside. Can you hear it? There's a storm here. A storm a-brewing. I hope everyone's getting shelter from the storm and not getting too wet and hurt by the elements. Makes me think of that song, Shelter from the Storm. It's a Bob Dylan song. Seeing it show up in like house insurance commercials now, which I'm coughing. That was from pizza. I got pizza in my throat. I'm sorry for that. I think my throat could use some shelter from the storm of that pizza. that went down the wrong pipe. I'm hearing Bob Dylan music show up in TV commercials now, where it's like, yeah, I'm sure this guy who is all about championing the movement of socialism, carrying on the legacy of Woody Guthrie. I'm sure he'd love seeing his music being used to promote skin lotion or whatever else, Yeah, The Man in Me I saw in another commercial, which, hey, it's a feel-good song, but it's also like one of those things that's like all about like, hey, I ain't got no money, I just got my virtues, man. So get yourself an insurance policy from a State Farm agent, because that's what Bob Dylan's music is really all about. Just peddling the insurance industry, making sure that racket makes the most amount of money, even though it's not really a tangible good. That's what's kind of frustrating here. You see all these commercials for car insurance that are giving all this money to help people during these corona plague times. Don't see 1 cent or any kind of mention from any healthcare company donating anything, because guess what? They're still scooping. They're too busy scooping in the cash from all these body bags. And as long as everything stays the same and there aren't any solutions, hey, there's a lot of scoop to be had from these insurance companies that are coming to claim the dead. So that's why you don't see them coming here saying, hey, we're going to donate $1 million to make sure everybody has health care, because we don't want everybody. We just want the rich people to have health care, because they're the ones paying those premiums. People with pre-existing conditions, we don't want you. We're not going to make a profit off of you. You got a lot of stuff to buy. We don't want to buy you shit. We want you to buy us shit. We want you to get us the fur jacket. We want to show up like that scene in Goodfellas where the guy's like, hey, take this jacket back. Hey, man, you can't be flashing that money around after you just robbed this bank. That's United Healthcare. They're walking in there with the pearls and mink jackets, showing up with all this cash they're flaunting around from this corona, all this profit they're making off of coronavirus activity. Meanwhile, like, Liberty Mutual is like, hey, you know how you don't need us? You know how we're like a fly-by-night racket where we just go door to door and try to sell policies to people, to like housewives who don't say no easily to aggressive men who put their plaid shoes in the door and all that stuff. They're the ones donating money to people in need, whereas health insurance doesn't care if you have your health. They just want to make sure your checkbooks are nice and smooth. All that ranting was really just to say, hey, why Spotify? Why aren't you playing the song I push play on? I think you need somebody needs to adjust your. I think you need a health insurance policy. See, wait. You ain't working so well. I pushed the refresh button. I think that'll solve it. Alright. Hey, I'm just going to let you know that today's show is very raw, and there might be some loose ends in this episode. So hopefully that don't rub you the wrong way. But hopefully this rubs you the right way. It's Raining by Darts.
It's raining things inside. That's why I'm crying. That's why I'm saying it's raining, I'm crying, I'm sinking, I'm dying. It's raining, I'm crying, I'm sinking, I'm dying. Oh, I'm sinking in the crowd, sinking in the crowd. I'm crying out loud, I'm crying out loud. Will this ache in my soul ever cease? Can I even find myself something? Outside I play cool, but inside I
Flutie, flutie, flute. That was Sweet Cherry Wine by Tommy James and the Shondells. A blast from the past, from the 60s. Just some feel-good music to get you over your heartbreak, get you through your hump, through your slump, and through your hump, and your Forrest Gump. And now we are about to jump into some music by our next guest. Here's New England Tune by Low Ceilings.
You've got a Massachusetts body. You've got Rhode Island on your brain. You tell me to keep my mind wide open, never stop those options flowing, 'cause you really never know when we might decide to move to Maine. But I've got Connecticut in my blood. I'm overlooked and underused, and I appreciate your patience with my overstated obfuscation and my talk about my relocation and my obstructive point of view. But I'm in love with New England like I'm in love with you, and I'll make good on all the things I said that I would do. Whatever you want, New Hampshire or Vermont, I'll give it to you. Working in Massachusetts when I do. You're like a slowly waning season, way the leaves fall to the ground, and we cuss out all our neighbors so disgusted as we bag them, and the folks who live in Florida, well, they all come from miles around. You've got an understated haircut. Your home state really digs your style. You like the silence of the suburbs and the quiet in the nighttime, and you're trying to decide if any city could be worth your while. But I'm in love with New England like I'm in love with you, and I'll make good on all the things I said that I would do. Whatever you want, New Hampshire or Vermont, I'll give it to you. Working in Massachusetts when I do. No, it doesn't have to look like this in the upper six. Everybody wants to move away from the cold and gray. Let 'em go, I'll stay.
Hey. How's it doing? How's it going, man?
Can you hear me okay?
Yeah. Hey, we just played your song, New England tune. It sounds amazing.
Thanks, man.
You got such a great vibe there. Like, it's like, I don't know, it's got this real classic sound. I love the vocal harmonies and the just the mellow serenade of it all.
Well, that's great. Thank you. I'm flattered.
Yeah. So how are things going over there?
You know, we're hanging in there.
Hanging in. You still you staying productive and, you know, not too blocked by this whole circumstance, I guess, creatively speaking?
Oh, sorry. You cut off right at the end there. Blocked by the circumstance and what?
All right. Can you hear me still?
Yeah, I can hear you.
All right. I pushed the record button so we can have a video document of this.
There we go. Okay.
So it looks like there's some kind of a connecting of the senses of some kind.
Classic, yeah.
Yeah, it was like a virtual out of body experience.
It happens all the time, man.
It sure does.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I'm just like, you know, this whole thing where it's like there's no stages anymore, and who knows when the next one of those is going to show up. Are you feeling disconnected? Are you feeling like right now you're living in a world of brain right now?
I live in a world of brain most of the time. So I feel okay. I think like I'm lucky because I don't make my living from being in a band, which you know, I'm a very like regimented and like routine based person. I like my like normal 9-to-5 job situation, and like I like what I'm doing right now. So in that sense, it's cool that I don't have to rely on music for my income, and you know, I can do it. I can do whatever I want with it. It can be fulfilling without having to be like my primary income. It does suck because shows are off and a lot of venues and musicians are losing a lot of money, and that's, you know, the industry is really tanking pretty hard.
Yeah.
But personally, I'm very fortunate that like it's not affecting me except like inconveniencing me because I can't play shows and I can't go to shows. But like in the scheme of things, that's, you know, that's very minor.
Well, honestly, I feel like, I mean, it's one thing to make your living entirely off of music. There is a little bit of a martyrdom to that, I think.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because I don't think you can create your best stuff when you're starving and you're just like bitter and you're like, I'm not getting, you're not getting your vitamins and minerals and stuff, and you're like, and then sit down and try to conceive something poetic and beautiful and of joy. So I mean, like, I feel like what you're saying is like, yeah, you're content, you're not struggling. So there go, like, they say like routine is the best for your mental health. So if you're in the shower, you could compose your next thought, and then, you know, it's like almost like you just got to work it into your life is like, and then, but you're not running around like, I got to crank out money out of my guitar right now.
Right.
Which is...
Yeah. And, you know, I've never... Like, as soon as I understood, I don't know how, like, what age I was or where I was in my musical trajectory when I figured out, like, oh, like, real people who are professional musicians, like, bust it 24/7, and a lot of them don't make any money, even though they're really good and work super hard. And I just kind of decided when I was, like, a kid, like, I'll know if it's like I'm sure all these people who do it professionally, and I have a lot of friends who are excellent musicians who do it professionally. I'm sure you do too. And like, if you have to do it for your job, you kind of know, I'm sure. Like, I don't have that feeling, and so I don't feel compelled to make it my job, like my only job. But for some people, that's just the way they have to do it. And, like, I respect it, but it's just never been for me, you know?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like it's very noble or very it's very sage that you figure that out young. That you're like, oh, I don't have to struggle to chase passion. You can get your comfort boundaries in place, and then be like,
yeah,
and I'm allowed to be creative and a musician, right. And be, you don't have to be like. I have all these theories in my head of like when I was in college and I was like, I just want to be a musician. That's all I want to aspire to be. But like I took a music class, and there's that old like standard writer Stephen Foster who wrote Camptown Racer and Oh Susanna, and he's like, he's folk legend, but like he died hungry and he didn't realize his own glory in his time. And part of me is like, that's so like noble, and there's something like pure about somebody like that. But then there's also like why would you want to suffer that much? Like you don't.
Right.
Like, there's many schools of thought where you're like, you didn't have to have that story of misery, and you just cut your lifespan into pieces because you felt this conviction to be only a musician, as opposed to a dynamic, someone who can have compartments and, I don't know. It depends on like what the end game is. If you're just speaking to your own pride, or are you speaking to like, it's almost like, where does fulfillment come from?
Sure.
It's like a
profound
question, I guess.
Yeah, and I think just like it's, if you're ready to, if you want to make that leap, then you can make that leap. But I just was never, it never felt like the right thing for me. Maybe someday it will, but it's funny you mentioned going to college, because I think going to college levels you pretty hard in terms of like understanding what can and can't happen in your life, and what's real and what's fantasy, and that's like maybe the biggest thing I learned from going to college was like, maybe this life of like playing music all the time is not for me. Like playing music for my job is not for me. I mean, yeah, among other things that college teaches you, it teaches you like who you are as a person and what you can and can't handle.
Yeah. In free thought, and just like, oh, this is the possibilities out there, as opposed to like, my father was a carpenter and his father before him, and I shall also follow in that trade line. But it's like, you can learn about other countries. You can learn about how other countries have better ways of society than we do. Like, there's things to shoot for.
Learn a lot about that, yeah.
And it's almost like that's the thing that's like held secret. It's like, oh, if you can afford to go to college, you can understand that this country ain't no good to everybody. So that's one of those truths that's unlocked when you're like, oh, you're telling me that basically every other developed country has free healthcare, and somehow we're walking around thinking we're hot shit. All that.
I know it well. Getting a lot of debt to figure some things out about yourself in college.
Oh yeah, $80,000 worth of grad school debt told me that
Look at you.
That's a line of work I'm not.
Ouch.
Yeah, it was almost like here's a life of struggle and low credit and hobbles of living situations. Also, by the way, this industry doesn't exist anymore because I studied journalism.
Yeah, I was listening to your conversation with Kathy. That's interesting.
Yeah.
Huh.
You said you went to school? What did you focus on?
I went to Emerson College for media arts production.
That's where I went to grad school.
Oh, very cool. Yeah, very expensive place to go to school.
Not a lot of career opportunities unless you know people.
Well, the thing is, I went in there and I was like, yeah, let's do this. I am interested in audio technology, and so I went in there as like an audio and sound design major. Quickly realized that like the film industry is not my jam. A lot of my best friends who I made there are like very smart film people and really understand that world and like really love that. Quickly realized that's not for me. I ended up finding my niche in audiovisual stuff, which is what I do now. I actually work at a university in Springfield, Massachusetts. I live in northern Connecticut, but I work at a university in Springfield, and I'm an AV tech there. So that's kind of like, college worked out for me in that sense. Like, I did stuff in college that taught me how to get a job. That's all you can ask for.
That is all you can ask for.
And then I just recently completed a master's through the university that I work for in communication, just because higher education for free, because you work there. Well, it's not really free. You got to pay taxes on it. It's a pain in the butt. But, like, I had to take advantage of it while I was there. So, while I am there. So,
yeah.
Quick higher education synopsis for you.
I actually work, it's funny, I found my way to higher education. It's like...
It's a good place.
Yeah, and it's like, it's not too evil. Just a little...
Right.
Like, there's a little bit of a herding and a shepherding and a... Like, there's a... Everything's got a little bit of a scoop column A and column B, and some things are a little murky along the way, but...
Absolutely.
But it's like, hey, it's like people are trying to build futures, trying to pull people out of dark landscapes and give hope. I think there's more good intention than you're going to find in corporate America. And you can
I feel good about it. It's like, there are worse things you could be doing with your time and effort.
Yeah. Well, you have some music to play and to share?
I do, in fact. So I got a quick question.
Sure.
I've got 3 tunes that I prepared, and I sent you the recorded version of New England Tune.
I think we'd love to hear that stripped down. That'd be an interesting
I can do that.
Compare and contrast situation.
Sure. I wanted to run it by the crew here because, like, I was like listening to it while I was waiting to go on, and I was like, okay, I didn't think about this until right now, that I planned to play this song, but I also sent you the copy of this song. So should I play it twice? I'm going to play a different song first. I'll play that one later, so it's kind of like you forget about it, and then I play it again, and you're like, oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah,
so
that reminds me of a time.
Maybe by the second time I play it, you'll like, it'll get stuck in your head more.
But my all of our expectation is that you're going to somehow be able to manufacture the drums, and you're also going to be able to supply harmony vocals.
Okay.
And you're also going to have a bass line that's following behind you, and whatever else is in that recording, that you can somehow collect all of that through your voice and your acoustic guitar.
Okay, I can do that. I'll do is I'll do just that. But, like, there might be some Skype issues, and you won't be able to hear anything but guitar and vocals.
I was going to say, even if you want to turn the guitar down and play up the drums and the bass, or actually
just
turn the lead down and turn the backup vocals up.
Okay. Well, I've got just off screen. I have a drum set. I'll do just drums and vocals for you. They'll sound great.
Okay, and actually none of that. I mean, you don't have to do any of that, but whatever. No, I think it's cool that typically if this was the live show, like, I'm always precious to, like, people's time and their patience and their attention span.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, here people could skip back and forth. I don't know who. Maybe some people are just turning it on and be like, I'm just going to get drunk and listen to whatever this is. But, like, maybe there's a certain type of...
Found this randomly on the internet.
Just was looking for nothing and found something. But, like, there's also, like, when it's a variety, like a live show, I'd be like, hey, like, he played 2 songs. Do you want to hear a third? And then try to get them to be like, yeah, we're ready for a third. And then, like, light up the joints, and we're going to... but that being said, 3 songs, even though we heard that one, it's cool that I like the idea that it's like a band and then a solo, and it's like, oh, we just heard those, and now we can have our brains be moved around.
Sure. Yeah, I got you.
That being said,
happy. Makes it easier for me. I just remembered how to play it while you were playing it, the recorded version, so now I'm ready to roll.
Good. I'm glad we could supply that service for you.
There you go.
I'm gonna mute my mic so you don't hear me, like, sneezing or coughing or whatever, footsteps or whatever while you're playing.
Sure.
But yeah.
So just do 3 right through.
How about
we'll talk about it after each one?
We could do like a James Lipton, like, how are you feeling, and what is your favorite swear word, and how?
Sure.
What color does the song make you think of? Or, if you play 2 and we heard that song, maybe I'll chime back in and then we'll close off with a third one.
Okay, sure. So what I'll do is I'll play, I'll do this one first. This is a tune called Old Friend at the Store. It's the first track on the Learn to Sew album that I sent you, that New England tune is from. And then I'll do New England tune and we'll talk about the new record and that kind of stuff.
Excellent. Take it away,
Cool.
Ben Mueller of the Low Ceilings.
Cool. Yeah, so this tune is called Old Friend at the Store, and it's about when you meet somebody who you haven't spoken to in a long time, and they remind you of, it's first of all, it's just really awkward, and you try not to talk to them, but then when you have to talk to them, it kind of reminds you of like a version of yourself that maybe you were less happy with. That's maybe the saddest way I've ever introduced the song before, but it's a fun tune. Old Friend at the Store. Here we go.
When I was young, my thoughts came straight from my head. Now I'm still young, just that much closer to death. I keep it cool and now I'm slightly mature. It's hard to talk about without getting bored. I don't look back and regret. Man, I was getting my feet wet. I went to bed and my brain sometimes it pulls you into something that reminds you, like seeing your old friend at the store, acting just like you never met before. Seeing someone you used to know when you were in school, you used to hang out, but you never talk now. When I was young, I used to shoot from the hill. Now I'm still young, I just been given less live. Try to be kind and do my share of the work. When I'm online, I keep from being a jerk. And I've been speaking my truth. And I've been doing what I want to do. It's all part of the game. Sometimes you're playing and you're suddenly reminded, like seeing your old friend at the store, acting just like you never met before. Seeing someone you used to know when you were in school, you used to hang out, but you never talk now. I see my old friend at the store. He says, "What's up?" I don't know what I should say. I'm like, "Hey, hi, how are you? How you been? How's your mom and dad and everybody else you know?" When I was young, my thoughts came straight from my head. Now I'm still young, just that much closer to death. Keep it cool and now I'm slightly mature. It's hard to talk about without getting bored. out, but you never talk. Seeing your old friend at the store, acting just like you never met before. Seeing someone you used to know, when you were in school, you used to hang out, but you never talk now. You never talk. You never talk. You never talk. You never talk.
All right. Oh, we're gonna do New England too now, aren't we?
Was that based on a person you saw at the store?
That was not based on an actual event, but just like a series of like hopefully, relatable experiences. That's never actually like, it's not about like this one time I met this one guy, but it's like everyone's had that experience.
Yeah, I don't think anybody writes a song about one thing that happened like that. I feel like it's this like stuff flowed into my head and it was like a little bit of this feeling, a little bit of like I think some of my favorite songwriters write songs about one thing that actually happened, which is why I like default to that explanation. But usually for me it's like a super mundane happening that ends up like revealing itself as more profound to me like however many weeks later. Do you think the Clash ever got actually lost at a supermarket?
No, that's a great metaphor. But they didn't actually. I mean, they probably did at some point, but that's not what the song is about.
Is there
but
deeper level of meaning than I took it as? Like, I thought this little boy got lost in the supermarket and he.
Right.
But is it more of like a global commentary of some kind? Joe
Strummer just like got traumatized from being lost in the supermarket when he was like 4. Like his mom, right? His mom like left him there. I mean, so I think about like one of my favorite contemporary songwriters is Andy Schaaf, who writes like very, very specific story songs about like a party or an old flame or like these very like it's a story. Like if you're not listening to the words,
it's like a vignette of some kind.
Yeah, exactly. And if you haven't heard of Andy Schaaf, he's like this really cool Canadian singer-songwriter who's got like Elliott Smith, Beatles vibes, really cool like clarinet parts, awesome guitar and like bass lines. Anyway, and I like one of my favorite, you were talking about Bob Dylan earlier.
Yeah.
Bob Dylan's one of my favorite songwriters, and he has these like incredibly specific messages and metaphors. They're not really about one event as far as I know, like in general.
Girl with the pillbox hat. Like
right.
Very specific image for
Girl with the pillbox hat was just mixing like a couple different Bob Dylan record subject matter, but that's pretty funny. Yeah, but that's what I mean is like it's like extremely specific subject matter, and so that's like where I live when I'm listening to music. Yeah. So when I'm writing, I end up being sort of like non-specific because I feel like a lot of the stuff that I actually experience is kind of mundane. But like finding the profundity in that is where I exist like creatively.
Drawing meaning out of simple thing, like things that are seemingly simple on the surface but deeper, have like a comment about the human condition or something that has a lot more to it.
Yeah, in a sense, exactly.
And this tune is about specifically the region of New England.
Yeah, the region of New England. To a lesser extent, the state of Connecticut, which gets a lot of flack.
Is it in or out of New England?
Connecticut?
Yeah.
Connecticut's in, man. Connecticut's southern New England.
Well, why does it get flack? Because they're like, you're like upper crust. You're not part of the real squad.
I think it gets flack because Massachusetts is like great, and a lot of people are just like, Connecticut is just like, and the other thing, it's like Rhode Island, there's a lot of like Rhode Island things. There's a lot of Rhode Island culture. There's a lot of Massachusetts culture. New Hampshire, Maine, and Vermont are like the wilderness ones. You know what I mean? So like Connecticut is kind of the odd one out in that like the bottom part of it is basically New York. The top part of it is like, you could call it like Massachusetts, Connecticut. Like it's
like a cipher state.
Right. But Connecticut actually has a killer music scene and a bunch of really cool stuff in it. I'm a big fan as someone who lives there.
How did you find a way to Connecticut, or
I grew up in Connecticut.
Okay.
Yeah, I grew up in Connecticut, and then I went to school in Boston, and I moved back home to Connecticut, and then figured things out, moved in with my partner, and now I'm still here. So anyway, to a lesser extent, it's about Connecticut. It's also a love song, as you may have guessed. So it's just kind of likening all of these like seasons and times and places and people together and being, you know, it's like the "We're Home" song, you know, like that's kind of.
It has this familiar sound. Like it sounds familiar, but it's also like I couldn't trace it to anything specific. Like it's one of those things where like you know a song where you're like it's great because it sounds like like an era or a feeling, but it's nothing I can point to specifically except these ingredients where I'm like the New England balladry of it makes me think of that Bee Gees song Massachusetts, which it's a beautiful melody, but it's also like a real awkward pointing to a state that they have nothing to do with, you know?
Yeah, the Bee Gees. You know how it is with the Bee Gees, but yeah.
But you got like a little bit of an Eagles melody, like like you know that like easy, you know, like that kind of hip, like smooth, mellow kind of folk buoyancy, and then you have like your vocals. I'm just analyzing you to your face.
Do it, man. I'm here.
Like if I were writing a review about your sound to you as the person of it, like when I was listening to your music, it's like you have this like trace of Lou Reed, a little bit of like Marcy's Playground, and then like if you want to give it like a modern thing, like I was thinking of like Kurt Weill.
Okay.
A little bit of that vibe.
Okay.
But of course, like, you know, you're not just, you know, it's first notes of like when you're tasting a wine, you're like, it's got like a trace of that from that,
sure.
A little bit of that, a little bit of that affectation, and then like comes together as a, I don't know if that rings true. I feel like you have deeper references than some of the topical things. Like you pointed out a songwriter who I had not heard of, but then it's almost like, you know, you want to have like some kind of credibility of like, I have favorite songwriters and I like having people in my pocket and saying like, I know about this person, and you put it back in your pocket. And then there's like, I can't deny the greatness of Bob Dylan or Bruce Springsteen, but they're also like, it's almost like they're so big and obvious, but like, because they're just like so magnanimous in a certain way. Yeah.
Well, and it's, you know, it's easy to talk about somebody with like 40 years of catalog where it's like, I just, you know, I know who I know. And if I don't know, I'll tell you. I don't know Marcy's Playground.
It's basically like 90s Lou Reed.
Okay.
And have that song, Sex and Candy. And then like, that makes you think of like...
Oh, they did that one.
Yeah, I mean, they're like a one-hit wonder.
I didn't know that. Okay, so I know that song, but I didn't know that was the band who did it. Okay.
Hanging around downtown with my friends, and there she was.
That's interesting. I've never gotten Lou Reed before.
Really?
But okay, I'll take it.
It's a vocal quality that, like, I trace lineages of vocal qualities. I can always be, I mean, I can kind of be like, I kind of know what that person listened to and was channeling. Like, I think of Cat Stevens. He's like one of my favorites. And like, he's channeling Sam Cooke through and through. And he's covered him a couple times. I'm like, oh, he's just doing white guy Sam Cooke.
Classic.
Classic move.
Folk singer move. That's interesting because it's so funny when people are like, oh yeah, you kind of sound like this, and it's meant to be a compliment, and it is taken as a compliment by me, absolutely, but it's like, oh, that's interesting because like I never listen to that person. And so Lou Reed is one of those people. It's like I know very little about Lou Reed.
Yeah.
In terms of like
the only thing worth knowing is Velvet Underground. Like, I mean, his solo stuff just kind of goes off on a tangent. I mean, like after the Dylan, I mean the Bowie, Bowie produced his like big solo album, but then after that, just gets kind of like you're not that great of a singer. Like,
Yeah, you know.
Not as the compare and contrast against you, but like he was singing, writing these beautiful pop songs with harmonies with the Velvet Underground, and then he went off and did this like beatnik poetry.
Yeah. There's a big beat poetry situation there. Absolutely. Yeah, that's not my jam, but I can appreciate it, but it's not like. That's interesting. I'll take that to heart. Sometimes people tell me that I sound like someone that I've never heard of, and then I go listen to that person, and whether I hear it or don't hear it, it's like, oh, okay.
I mean, it's good. I just listen to it and you're like, it's good, so that's all.
Like I heard something new. You know what I mean? Like,
it's all projection. It's like, how can I find the thing that I hear in it and share it?
Right, absolutely.
And you're like,
absolutely.
Yeah, but it's never.
Absolutely.
It's usually like I'm thinking of somebody you wouldn't even think.
Right. Sometimes I feel like people do that to try to get you to say that you don't know the band that they just told you sound like. Like
give themselves credit for knowing obscure music.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that doesn't happen to me a lot, but it's like there's always that one person who's like, oh yeah, have you ever heard of this band? Like you sound exactly like them, and it's like, oh okay, I'll take that to heart.
You sound like the Bellhoppers, and they have like this obscure bootleg collection that like only 10 fans have, and I'm one of them.
Right.
But you sounded identical to those people.
Yeah. Yeah.
Anybody ever told
you must have listened to that EP. Oh, you don't know them?
Oh.
Classic.
Well, why don't I show you my record collection?
Oof. That's how they get you.
That's how they get you in Snoresville.
That's how they get you. Oof. Ouch.
Well, you have this beautiful song that I coded with my own projections of...
Projections are welcome, man. That's what music is, man.
Yeah.
Author's dead, man. Death of the author. It's just whatever you hear is what it is. That's how it goes.
It's all the reception.
Right. It doesn't matter what I meant it to be like. It's what you hear. Anyway, I'm gonna play it. This is New England Tune. I'm gonna take my my headphones off because it kind of screwed me up. Actually, no, I'm not. It'll be fine. All right. I'm just gonna tune up.
Whatever you need to feel in the zone.
I love this guitar, but it doesn't do too well when you move the capo up high. All right. This is New England Tune. Thanks for hanging out. You've got a Massachusetts body. You've got a Rhode Island on your brain. Oh, you tell me to keep my mind wide open. Never stop those options flowing. 'Cause you really never know when we might decide to move to Maine. But I've got Connecticut in my blood. Overlooked and under you. And I appreciate your patience with my overstated obfuscation and my talk about my relocation and my obstructive point of view. But I'm in love with New England like I'm in love with you. And I'll make good on all the things I said that I would do. Whatever you want, New Hampshire or Vermont, I'll give it to you. Working in Massachusetts when I do. You're like a slowly waning season. Way the leaves fall
like the silence of the suburbs and the quiet in the nighttime, and you're trying to decide if any city could be worth your while. But I'm in love with New England like I'm in love with you. And I'll make good on all the things I said that I would do. Whatever you want, New Hampshire or Vermont, I'll give it to you. Working in Massachusetts when I do. No, it doesn't have to look like this in the other cities. Everybody wants to move away from the cold and rain. Let it go, I'll stay. Whatever you want, whatever you want, whatever you want, New Hampshire or Vermont, I'll give it to you. I'll give it to you.
Cool.
Yeah, that sounded beautiful.
Thanks, man.
And I like the idea that it's you can hear it two different ways in the same episode.
Wow, okay, that's good.
Now, that being said, I'm realizing that this platform, which this podcast is being recorded on, is like 3 minutes away from closing out.
Uh-oh.
It gives you a 3-hour time limit, and apparently I've been running long today.
Yeah, all set.
But that being said, I feel like we should do this again, and you have a lot more songs to share.
Yeah, I've got a few here and there.
Yeah. Well, hey, I mean, I super appreciate you coming on here and sticking around and bantering a bit and playing.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for having me, my friend.
Yeah, let's. Hopefully we can do this again, and maybe we can get some more tunes in the air.
Yeah, anytime. Happy to help. Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
Yeah, man. Let's stay in touch after the show.
Sure, absolutely.
All right, man. Have a great night.
Take care, my friend.
All right. Stay well. That was Ben Mueller. At a fault of my own, was talking more than singing, because I have one of those yappers that don't quit, but he's got one of those voices that it melts the night away. It cuts through the tension of the dark. But that being said, we have 1 minute left of this show. I'd like to hopefully imagine maybe there's one person out there still hanging in. If not, doesn't matter. This is out there, and hopefully people are at least taking comfort in the community of it all. And to that, I play until the recorder runs out.